And it says we are live. That must mean that we're most likely live. We're back with the last session of this fabulous day of Dev24 2022, but there is one full more day left over. Well, left over not, but it's a completely new day, a completely different day when we actually turn the cameras around and we won't stream anymore, but we will give everybody the opportunity to participate in whatever they're interested in. So tomorrow we'll start the unconference and all of the data, the dates, the times. Well, the date is clear, but the times, the time zone, and so on, you can find that on the agenda on liferay.dev/24. With that, getting sorted after a break is always hard. Let's go and introduce our next. No, actually, wait a second. 1930. So we are 10 minutes early. For some reason, I have harassed you too early because I said, "Oh, quick, come on stage."
Yeah, well, it's like, is it time already? But that's okay. Let's just chat with
Yeah,
Olaf. It's
somehow
good.
my mind had 1920, and I was walking the dog during the break, so I was like, hurry up. So we gotta get back, and we gotta be back in time. But not everybody might be here. That means we can actually talk a bit. And I didn't see a lot of Brazilian flags in the audience, so all of your fan base might not be there yet anyway. So we can
Maybe not yet. Maybe in 9 minutes.
we can just we can just use the time to chat a little bit.
Sure. I can see you playing around with objects. So maybe you can tell us your first, second, third impressions or whatever.
Mhm.
So what about?
So what was that? First, second, and third. That will be a stretch. Well, number one, that I have been in the very luxurious situation of so far being able to demonstrate objects with something that somebody else prepared. So I have to admit, with everything that I say, I didn't get my hands dirty myself, but I had somebody else to get their hands dirty on doing actual stuff. We are working with objects on the registration for Dev24. I've mentioned that a couple of times. So if you have submitted the registration form, if you got a ticket for Dev24, that is thanks to objects.
Oh, didn't know that. Good. So I've already used it objects in action here
Yes, in
with the
production,
Dev
so
24.
in real world production. And
Good to know.
yeah, I got some questions from that. So there were a couple of things that we were just not too used to. Basically, after the fact, there was a question of how do we bring that from user acceptance test to the production system. And with
We
objects,
are working on that already.
yeah,
Me,
yeah,
just to tell you.
we're in a weird situation there because Dave, I don't know, Dave, if you hear us, give us some sign. Dave has trolled me by saying, objects are content, so they don't follow the development life cycle, which I take as pure trolling. And if you're aware of Dave's most posted or most shared article on the Liferay blogs, it's content creation. Hold on, please. Content creation is not a development activity. So content does not flow from development to UAT to production, but typically rather the other way around. And with objects, technically, yes, that's content, but conceptually, it's not. So I enjoyed
It is in
him
the
calling me.
middle. Yeah, that's our biggest challenge maybe because objects is not a content, but kind of it is.
Well,
It's
technically,
a
it is. Conceptually, it isn't, right?
yes, exactly. So, but we are focusing on this, like about this movement between
Yeah.
production, UAT, and whatever. We are putting our efforts on this and in this in this end of the year. So we are
Mhm.
putting, for example, a lot of external reference code there, so we can reference between entities and not losing it, and not de- detaching them while
Mhm.
moving from one environment to another. So we are improving in that topic.
Yeah. And yeah, that was number one. So that was a little bit resisting to actually be moved in a way that we really liked. And well, other than that, I'm really happy. We'll have to have a shout out here for Luca, who has built all of the backend, which is the interfacing with the work adventure authentication and what's it, not accreditation, but basically account creation. And with Mahmoud, another colleague of mine, he has built the ticket, which is basically, I think, his second attempt, because he wasn't happy with the looks of the first. The first one was a pure CSS thing, and to me, it looked like a ticket. To him, it was like, nah, this is not pretty, so he had to do something else. And I'm really thankful for that, because I had all kinds of other things to do before Dev 24, and it's always better to share in a team what everybody is best able to do themselves.
Good, thank you.
Speaking of which, this is another time to basically praise the team, because while Louis and me are standing here, kind of giving the face uh, to Dev 24, there's a huge team in the background of volunteers. This morning we opened, well, my morning, whatever time, day two, we opened with Mariella from the events team, and she is working on events. She's paid to do that, but this is a volunteer-led event, and this is not interfered by Liferay's event team. So we keep that work from them. Well, maybe we try to squeeze them into something for next year, but we'll see.
By the way, I've watched the
Mhm.
Mariela's talk earlier, and I can't wait for us to meet next year on DevCon. So
Yeah,
probably on Q2, right? So let's
she said
see.
so. Yes,
We already have some ideas of talks, some things. Let's see what we can deliver
that
to
is
you
good.
next
Yeah,
year.
just submit, because we always lack some information, and we always need more. And there's the other person who lends his pixelated face to the event, Louis Guillaume. Welcome back.
Hey, hey guys. Hey Gabriel.
If you have
Absolutely.
seen the stream
Hey,
so
Louis.
far in front of the indoor telescope, then you will have seen that I have messed up my timing, and I've started the stream 10 minutes early. So now I keep those two guys
The
busy.
truth is that Olaf was missing talking to me and to the Felipe, so he
Yes,
grabbed us 10 minutes earlier.
absolutely. Absolutely. Gabrielle, we saw each other last at DEF CON, so about half a year ago. And I'm happy to report that now you actually look more natural than at DEF CON. Uh, I'm not sure. You'll have to give a thumbs up or thumbs down if we can share the photo later on, because at DEF CON I saw you on a really, I don't know, discoloring screen that looked absolutely awesome.
That's true.
So I still have the photo, but
Really?
I'll need your thumbs up or thumbs down if that
Of
can be
course,
possible.
of course. It's
Okay,
it's good. It's good.
then I'll
And
grab
we
that and
will add
share that out.
the audio from the previous presentation, with the edge guessing, and it got like Gabriel is old with the 53 guess.
Oh yeah.
Exactly. I was watching it. I was like, okay, come on.
Well, you don't
But
look like it.
Oh, thank
You
you,
yeah.
don't
by the
look
way.
like how old you are. You don't look your age.
Ooh, I hope so. Good.
Uh,
Just to translated, the contrast of the screen or something was against me, so it looked like I was using some lip gloss, or maybe, right?
Yes,
Olaf?
pink lip gloss.
Pink lip gloss.
That was how the TV screen that I had in front of me that I was talking to, it was right next to the camera. There I saw on the one, it was the front right from my position on, the one that I looked at. That had you discolored with pink lip gloss, and the other one, it didn't. So now you look like I remember you from before DEF CON.
Yeah, okay, good. Enough.
Though admittedly a bit older, but not as much as your name taught us. Okay, we have reached the time to actually begin with this stream 10 minutes in. So if you are following on YouTube, if you are looking if you're watching the recording, then you most likely have just clicked on the chapter marks anyway. But for now, let's get this going. You both are actually working with objects, so the question came with a reason. Both from Brazil again, so in the audience we do see quite a few of flags of Brazil, I guess. Hold on, let's double check, and let's actually have them on the stream as well. Well, you both are working in the teams responsible for objects, workflow, forms, and others. I never know which team is working on. Yeah.
Yes.
Gabriel, you made it to team lead. So basically, you both are the authoritative people to talk about this topic, that is to create a custom notification type. And I guess that's all in the context of objects as well. Gabriel, Felipe, take it on.
Thanks, Olaf. So as you were saying, we are from the BPM team right now. It's the Business Management Process team. So what it is exactly, we take care of objects, we take care of notifications, and we take care of pick lists from the new waves of products. But we also have forms, we have workflow under our umbrella. Felipe is here with me also. He is kind of I would not say the father, but the owner or something like this, of the notification product. That's the one we are going to talk about now. So he's the authority in this theme, in this topic. So let's start. First, we are going to start talking about notifications, and then we will go to objects and actions. So let me share my screen here so we can check of what I am talking about. So here is the 7.forever portal, and then now we have this notifications panel here. And from where this idea came from, why we are creating a new product called notifications here. It's because a certain customer just came and said, oh, I just wanted to send a notification when I change my ticket, for example. So we have several email notifications throughout the portal. We have inside workflow, we have inside commerce. So why not bringing this idea of sending notification to a single product and making these other products consuming from it? So that's the idea we had. So here we can check. I'm going to create a simple channel here just for us to check how it works inside commerce. So this is a simple channel. And we have here notification templates and notification queue. So when I go here, I can create a new notification template, a new email notification template, actually. So here I have two, CC, BCC, and so on. Down here, I have the subject and the body of this notification. And here is the core of it. Here I can choose the type. So I have, for example, I have order place. So right after the order being placed, I will send this email notification. This is how commerce works right now. But from the object perspective, we want to make it customizable to the user. So I don't want to just to relate this template with order or subscription. I want to trigger it from whatever I want. So the idea was bringing this implementation that we already have here from commerce to objects. So that's what we did, actually. If we come here in the notifications product that we have, we can create an email template, and then we have a UI pretty similar to the one we have in commerce. We have the two, CC, BCC, we have the subject, we have the template, and then we can build our own notification template there. So let's go to the real use case thing so you can visualize better. Let's imagine I have an object called tickets. Okay. Then we are going to add some title here, text, and then another field, priority. It's integer, just for us to mark something here. And I want to create an action for it, right? So ticket update. Then right after the ticket being updated, I want to send a notification. But okay, wait, I need to create this notification template first. So we can come here, go to the template, and then I can link with another idea we had. From commerce, it only has the email notification, and why not implement new types of notifications? So that's what we did. That's the idea we had. And now, out of the box, we have the user notification template also. So that's the one we are going to display right now. So I'm going to create a ticket update template. I'm going to choose the recipient. I have these three types here. I can send a notification to a row, to a specific user, or I can even define terms here coming from my object entry. I'm going just to text test. That's my user here, just to display something. And then the subject will be like ticket. I'm going to choose the variable here, ticket. I'm going to put the name of the variable. Was updated. Priority. I'm going to take the priority also. And this is my template. Here, I'm going to fill the title, and here I'm going to fill the priority of it, and just save it. Now I have the template, and now we just create it again. Ticket update. Here, on after update, I will trigger an action notification, and then the ticket update template. That's it. So let's publish our object under control panel objects, publish. Okay, so go in there. I'm going to create a ticket. I need a mouse, for example. Priority 5. So I've just created the ticket, so no notifications yet, because it is just if I update it. So now you can see that it was created here, a notification, and then I can check ticket I need a mouse was updated, priority 4. If I go back there and update it, no, it's not priority 4 anymore, it's priority 2. Here I have another notification with the details of my ticket here. So just a quick look before talking, before calling Felipe to demonstrate something else. Here we have the code, the core code of it, right? We have several notification types. It can be user notification, email, or whatever. And then we take it and then we send the notification, passing some parameters to this send notification. For now, we have 2 out of the box, the email one and the user notification, right? We have this third here, the function notification. This is the coolest one. Felipe is going to explain some more, because we then had another idea. We will provide notifications out of the box, of course, like we have here, email and user. But why not making it extensible? Why not delivering a way to the customer or to the user to deploy a new notification template, and then we can call it from the object action. That's what we did. And why not making it usable from a client extension, right? That is our main goal here. It's working with LXC and deploying client extension there easily, so we can consume from the product. And now I call Felipe to demonstrate what he did that I thought was amazing. You will see, guys.
Hello, everyone. Nice to meet you, Olaf and Luigi, and now on the stage. Firstly, before I show the code, I would like to show to present a use case that is about a user that went to be notified in his phone through the WhatsApp every time that your order status is updated. So let me share my screen. Okay, so I'm going to log in user that is a customer. Now I'm going to make an order in commerce. I will choose this one item, add to cart, submit. I will fill these fields with some value. This one, phone number, I'm going to put my own number. This is the number that I am going to receive the notification through the WhatsApp. Choose an expected delivery, continue. So, and here it is. I forgot to delete this old message, but I received this message that is informed that my order that has this ID was changed to pending status. So if I'm going to the vendor side, and change the order status to the order management orders. Here it is our order with the same ID. I'm going to accept the order. A new notification was sent to me. My notification, my order status was changed to processing. I'm going to create a shipment. Let me choose the warehouse. Okay. Ship. Another notification. Final delivery completed. So that is the use case. Now that everything worked fine, I'm going to show the code and how I could do that. Firstly, the WhatsApp notification type is not an out of the box not a notification type provided out of the box to our team. So I need to create from Alex's side, and I'm going to display how can create a notification type from Alex's side through the CLI. Thanks for Raymond and Greg Emerson that helped me to do this. So firstly, you need to create a project that serves Spring Boot, because this partial that I created from Alex's side is based on Spring Boot, and you need to follow this wizard, modify an existing project, choose the Service Spring Boot project, apply a partial, choose the notification type Spring Boot 1. In the last presentation that Mateus and Camacho did, they used the object action Spring Boot below, but in this case I used notification type Spring Boot. So you need to define the ID that and the prefix of the notification type class. This ID I will show you how to reference the notification type to the template that Gabriel showed, because we need to create a template based on a notification type. So I define the ID, I define the notification type name, define other properties that is about LXC, and finally the resource path that will be the endpoint that the LXC will communicate to Liferay, TXP. So that's it. And this is the final command that it's needed to generate the partial in Service Spring Boot project. Here is the repositories that is this code. I can share in the end of the presentation. Now I'm going to display how after we create a notification type from Alex's side, how can we make sure that this notification type is registered as a OSGI component in our portal. So we need to go to control. We can check it into control panel, Google Shell, and let me get this. So we can filter by object class. Here we can see the mail notification type, user notification type, and the one that is the what I created. And here it is the notification type that we need, the notification type that we use to reference in the notification template. So how can we can create a template, a notification template using this notification type? We need to do that through the headless. We don't have a UI yet, but we are going to provide notification. So I already posted the notification. If I get here, the last one, we can we can see the sorry, we can see the body that I created. Hello, the custom name that I replaced to my name, and the ID of the order that I replaced to the order. I'm going to show how can I replace it and how can you get these variables and the order status as well. And here is the type that is the reference that you need to define in the notification template. I also create a notification template for email, and the idea of the email is email because it's our own notification type from Liferay DXP portal side. So we have a notification type, we have a template that uses notification type. So what we need to do to trigger this notification, we need to go to commerce or the system object, actions, create an action. I already created a send WhatsApp notification. The action builder, I defined when the action will be triggered. Will be triggered every time the order status is updated. And the action is the notification one, and my template is the WhatsApp notification template. So that's it. And with this, we can simulate the presentation that I did here. From LXC, when you create a partial, let me check. This is the Liferay local dev repository that is the repository that we create the how the partial what files the partial will create when you run the CLI. So this is the main class, in my opinion, that will be that in this class we will have the endpoint here that will you define that I mentioned that here in this presentation, and that's it. So I get this snippet of code that will send a WhatsApp notification. I'm use this service because I don't have a WhatsApp account verified by by Meta company. But I could use Twilio to send notification type, to send the WhatsApp notification, sorry. And just the method is the method receive a two number that will be send a notification. The from that will be then the business account, and the body that will be the content. So how to get the customer phone number? How can I get the customer phone number from commerce order billing address? I received the JSON. Set okay. This JSON will contain some. Let me display to you what this JSON will contain. Let me generate it again. Some notification. Okay, so the JSON is that one. Copy and paste here. So you will receive all these variables here. In this case, term values will contain the company ID, the object definition ID, or the status that I use to that I use to complete my template. Commerce order, the commerce order ID, and another stuff about notification recipients, notification template. Here I get my template, and I define this pattern to replace the variables. Custom name will be replaced to the custom name of the user. The ID will be replaced to the commerce order. The status will be replaced to the order status as well. So this is the all variable that we will receive. And here we can get this JSON here. I pass to JSON node, get the term values, get the commerce order, and the commerce order I get its ID. So I make a get request to get the billing address, and once I get the billing address, I get the phone number. So that's it. That's the way that I get the phone number, and I think that's it. The body, I replace the ID of the order to ID. I put a hard code in my number, my name here, because I already show how to make a get request. So to avoid complexity in the code, I just put the hard code in my name as hard coded here. But if you would like to get the name of the user, you just need to get the user ID from order, commerce order, and make a HTTP get request here, and you can get every information of your user. So that's it. I think I believe I don't forget anything. So that's it.
So I think it is worth to mention here, just to finish our presentation, is that we have here the email notification type, we have the user notification type, but we also have this function notification type. That's what make the thing of client extension is working, because we take the notification context and then we launch it with Portal Catapult. So that's how we communicate for the client extension to pay attention on it and then take the information, right, Felipe?
Yes. When you create a notification type from Alex side, OSGI config will be set in OSGI configs in your bundle, and the function notification type. Let me share my screen again. Let me open the Liferay portal. A new notification, a new configuration, OSGI configuration will be set in OSGI configs, and this class will actually this class here will be responsible to create the notification type based on that configuration. The configuration that is defined here will be set in OSGI configs, and here this configuration will get this information and will be generated will be hashed another OSGI component for your notification type. So it's basically that's it from function notification type. Here is the prefix that we add for every notification type created from Alex's side, and that's it.
Yeah, thank you, Felipe. And as Guilherme and Mateus displayed earlier, and as we are showing now, we are providing ways to create client extension from actions, from object actions, and also from notification type. Our goal, of course, is to deliver more and more out of the box solutions, but we are also aiming to to deliver ways to customize code, of course, because sometimes we can't cover everything for every customer. So we are focusing on this too, on providing ways to create client extensions so we can solve real problems, real use cases, and provide real solutions. That's it.
Thanks a lot, guys. That's a great talk, and that's a good follow up to the action type and seeing how it is extended within Liferay and outside of Liferay for Alex environment. And I think for the community, it's very nice to see that we're supporting both. Like it's not only about client extensions, which is very important for us because we're moving more and more in a SaaS mindset, but to keep that compatibility and that mindset of OSGI extensions that we can take advantage of with more traditional deployments.
Sure,
Yep.
of course.
Right. Sorting.
I don't see any question from the audience, but I have one. About when you're choosing an entity in the notification template, like for the definition of terms, does it mean that it's bounded to that entity, so it's only listed for the object definition you choose?
We had several discussions about this, Luigi. Yes, and the answer is no. In fact, it is not tied to any specific object. We can add terms from object A and B, for example. There. Why? Because the template is for now we are using it inside an action, inside an object action, and this action is tied to an object. So it doesn't make sense for now the template not being tied to an object. But the end goal is like I can have a notification that consume terms from 2, 3, 4 objects to build that template. So we were thinking further, so we can support this kind of use cases of that template will be built using multiple objects. So that's why it is not tied to an object.
I get it. Just to take the example, and correct me if I'm wrong, taking the example I used for my previous talk on moving from service builder to object, I had like an after sales request bounded to commerce order. So in that case, if I want to trigger notification for the requests and I want some details about the commerce order in the template, I would need both objects because I need details for both objects, right?
Right, exactly. So
okay. So we need to be careful when using that. Like,
yeah, sure.
We do not have empty
now,
things, in the template, but yeah, it makes sense.
You are right. You're right. Sure.
Okay.
And also, just to point something out, we are bringing the use of commerce notifications to the. Let me share again so we can. It's going to be fast here. So instead of going to commerce and building a notification here, we already have some commerce entities as system objects, right? And commerce order is one of them. So we can create an action for the orders. And we also have custom triggers here that we have implemented inside commerce. So this is also extensible through OSGI components. So you can implement your own trigger also. So I have here on payment status update, on subscription status update, and so on. And I have also the out of the box ones that we have. So instead of building that notification inside commerce, we can build our notification that we've just shown here and link it through the object actions. It will work as well as Felipe demonstrated. So the goal is like bringing every notification, every portal notification inside this new product that we are creating.
Okay. Does that mean that at some point we won't need notification templates and queues from the channel part, and we can use like the global one you're building?
That's our goal. Yes.
Okay.
Exactly. One of our goals, actually.
There's many goals.
Several ones.
Yeah.
There's multiple goals. Yes.
Multiple, a lot.
Yeah. But that's very nice to see templates really getting out there at that level of configuration, right? Because I always felt like we had notification in some events predefined by Liferay, and you have the definitions, very limited in the ways you can create those templates and to which event you bind them. And when you get to customize, it's kind of a hassle to get that working. And I remember some early adopters of commerce, like there's some event that was not already supported, and they needed to bring that, and that was very hard work. And yeah, you just making our life easier, and that's great.
Good, perfect. Well, that's it from our side.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Great. Thanks a lot.
And I guess we'll see
you.
you around. And
Sure.
we'll pump those flags
Of course.
around the work
always.
adventure. And yeah, thanks again for being here and sharing all that knowledge.
Yeah. Anybody who has some more questions, you will not be notified, but you can just follow either of the two when they walk outside, and then to both of you, if you just walk outside the theater and see if somebody has any more discussion that needs to be done, then please do so. And with that, Rose,
Yes.
please come on stage. I see you already there in front of the stage.
Bye-bye, guys.
Goodbye.
Thank you, Felipe.
Bye.
Bye.
And there she is.
Hello,
Hi, Rose.
how are you guys?
Good everything. Or, well, to you, it's good evening.
Alright.
That's as far as I know.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
I
so
just
now-
we just be scared regarding the URL, but everything okay now.
The last minute panic of this
Yes.
program is just
I
you
said,
can
"It's
feel
not
the heart beating
possible."
harder and harder. And you're just like multitasking and trying to to sort things out.
That's true.
Oh my god.
I can report the same. Something always goes wrong last minute, and some of those glitches have been visible on the stream, but we'll see what else is going to happen.
Always about the Murphy's law. Anything that can
Yes.
go wrong will go wrong. So
Absolutely.
that's what happened.
Any any late changes that you would like to add? Nah, don't.
Absolutely.
Ask me how I know.
Let me just change this small class to go to pro. And I said, no, 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 please
Yes,
It's
do not
Friday.
do
Don't
any
do this.
deploy today. No, please don't. Exactly.
indeed. Okay, let's get you going, Rose. Louis, would you like or should I? Either way is fine.
However you feel.
Okay. Well, with Rose, I think, well, as I know about her, that she already liked web design and like designing on the web from being a child on. So I'm tempted to say, yeah, so was I. Or that's one alternative. Or we'll do the name game again and we see if that gives away something about her age. Um, so she has some qualities that I don't have, which is she's able to talk about designing stuff on the web, where designing does not mean make things look different, but where designing means let make things look nice. And as everybody wants their portal to be or their website to look like their corporate identity, I guess Rose has something for us. And for a while, we're now saying if you can, go without themes. And if you've always wondered, how the heck am I going to do that? Because I need a theme to make Liferay look the way that I would like it to look. Well, here's Rose with her tutorial or presentation about why you do not need themes. And the exact title is on a tab in my background, which is how to build your brand without creating a new theme in 7.4. From a member of the Dev24 team, Rose, take it away.
Thank you, Olaf, for the presentation. Hello, guys. In the last Dev 24, I just came here together with Francisco and we presented how you could cook your own style book. And today in our theme, and today I'm showing you how to avoid to use the theme. So I'm just share my screen and take a look. Okay. No, sorry, slideshow. Okay. So here is today the presentation, as Olaf have been saying, is regarding how we can build a new brand. Because when we start a project in life, we just start saying, "Oh, let's see how could I start my theme, how the variables will add." So today we can see how we can avoid, and I can assure to you that we have at least 95% covered with these solutions. So as a summary, the main points here will be changing the mindset when we receive a new project or doing a migration, how we could eliminate the theme, or if you are going to work in a LXC project. Uh, Together with this mindset, we will see the big helpers to us, which is the master page, templates, the fragments, and client extension together. Okay, so here is the way when we started. No, long time ago, always when we start a project, we need to install in the past, no need the Yeoman, but nowadays, in the last 3 years at least, we need to install Yeoman in our local. Normally, we install the generator, and we get a Liferay workspace and start our project with Joe Liferay theme. So you give a name to your theme and start to thinking and building the FTL page. And now, with the themes, as I said, in the last year, I came here to teach you how you can add your style books together with Francisco. And you can even add the style books in your theme. But with the solutions, the SaaS mentality, I will be able to show to you today that we can just avoid this approach. And the big advantage to change your mindset is actually when we have a new members in the team, they don't need to be an expert free marker. So the upskilling is very easy nowadays, the way we will work. So we speed up our building. It's easy to maintain. It's more flexible for people who will work in the portal, the people who works with the web contents, and no need any deploy. The disadvantage is nowadays I didn't see anyone, so it's as a to do. So first of all, when we are changing our mind, what we think is I'm changing from theme and I can build with a fragments, for example, my page. But how can I handle normally the theme settings, which we use a lot in a project? So nowadays I can advise you that you can change to the master page template. So all variations which we handled with theme settings and a lot of ifs inside our free marker files, you can create different page master page templates to handle this type of variation. If I will show one menu or other menu or one web content or different one. So when you think in theme settings, I'm absolutely sure you can replace by master page templates nowadays, most part of the things. Also regarding the variations of size of fonts and colors, we can handle with the style books, as you already, most part of you, I'm pretty sure, know. So you can create a lot of type of variations, and together with the master page, you can have the colors variation together with the behavior variation, or if I will show one web content in my footer, one navigation menu. So here we are doing more or less like a Lego piece, no? Because we start everything with master page templates variation. After we go with the style box to define our brand colors. And now we came to the fragments finally. Instead of to learn and know everything regarding portal normal, init, portlet, navigation, FTL files, with a lot of ifs inside, you can just replace by two fragments to be the header and the footer. And this header and footer need to be for sure flexible. I will show in the end how we normally do some flexibility and provide some flexibility parts. Okay, and if you are asking by yourself, okay, and regarding the CSS, I would like to have a CSS global because people coming from marketing know some CSS classes. They are using maybe the fragment or even the CK editor to put a small piece of HTML together with this class. So you can replace that the CSS coming from the themes as global for the client extension, the global client extension. And everything of these together with the style books and consuming variables. Okay. So here is pretty short, easy peasy. No, so I will show you now the code and how things work in practice. Okay. Okay, let me just put this here. So first of all, I will open a Liferay and we'll do the login here. So I have the last version of Liferay community, GA52. And when we go to the page templates, there is the master page. Normally you will see the blank, which came by default. And here I have two of them that I already created, but I can create a new one after to see. Okay. Let's create variation sample. Okay. Okay. So here I have two of my piece of sites. For sure, you already have out of the box in Liferay the header and the footers. And these two new ones, which I did, is based on this out of the box, but I just put a little more flexibility there. So if we use, for example, the out of the box, you just need, oh, this is the footer. Okay. We just need to add here, drag and drop the first part and the second one here. Okay. Here you have an image editable where you can put some logo, and here you can configure your menu display to be shown. Okay. All right. So here we go. This is the out of the box. So you can think, okay, but maybe here I would like to add our social URLs to people go. So I just create two new ones, which we will base it on. So normally nowadays, to give more flexibility, the parts who can be changed with the site variations. Suppose I have free sites, that free site has free social media displays with different URL. So I would create a master page template, and instead of put here the social media fixed, I would use here a drop zone, and inside I can add here the social media, right? And I can change the URL to this social media. Okay, so suppose this is the third variation. So now I have the header, which I created also. So here, instead of to have a menu here, I put a drop zone because people can just maybe exist one button or none of them, one navigation menu. So in this case, you can add any widget, web content display, blog, any of these things inside. So normally, if you want to embed a portlet in a fragment, as we did in the past with the themes, the way to do that is use a drop zone. So in the moment you just drag and drop that widget inside here, you can edit the web content and choose whatever you want. In this case, I'm just adding this, but sorry, I just need to move this. Okay, it's too big. Okay, so in this case, we have the menu display, but could be a web content to just show some message. So give more flexibility. Here is the way normally we think when we are building a fragments nowadays, mainly because when we are using master page display template, I can use in this case a lot of variations. So it's a good way and flexible way. So now we have this use case. Let's see, we will say, okay, the header and the footer has some strange colors, no? Because it's coming from this style book. But I already created two of them. And if you see here, when I change my style books, it's changing the color for the style book. For this reason, it's important to keep working with the variables. The way we did these fragments is very simple. If we can see, here is my collection with the two of them. And here is the fragment, basically copy and paste from the out of the box. I only add, instead of a widget or web content directly, I give more flexibility adding a drop zone. So that's part which you saw the blue box, who allow you to add a widget or another fragment inside, is the drop zone. It's very flexible. And here I have the name, which is section footer, the class. So when we came here in the CSS, the background color I'm getting from the theme color from the style book, the secondary for the footer. And for the header, the same. I have here a drop zone. Here I have my class section header. Inside, my background color is getting the primary color. So this way I am flexible with the fragments, which we can compose one fragment together with other fragment. And we are flexible also with the style books, not using hard code colors. And you can do the same for the sizing. So how do I know which is the name of the variable when I create one style book? So here there is some trick, which is when you go to the style book. Okay, here. When you create one style book, here's the new one, will be created to you with the default colors. So we can choose other colors. So the brand color I would like to be this and this. Okay. So if I go to the buttons, I say the same. Okay, my buttons will be green. Remember the buttons, there is only a session in the style books. So then, because sometimes I see people being crazy saying, no, my primary color is here is green and the button is not getting it because it's different. Okay. Okay. So suppose we are using this. Okay. Here we have the outline also much more. I'll just select a few more. Okay, this here. Okay, here we have only links. So here we can create how many style books would you like to. And when you publish this style book, suppose I'm publishing here, okay? When you publish, when you export, you have a zip file. Okay, I'll just open the zip file here. Okay, and inside we have the tokens generated. So here is a JSON with all variables. So if you, for sure you need to format there, but if you look for the primary color, you will find here, okay, I have here the button primary color. This is the name of my CSS variable. So it's an easy way to get. You can also go to Liferay, to the GitHub in Liferay and search there. But when you do this, only will be, just get JSON formatter. When you do this, you will have only the variables which you touched. So it's interesting because it's easy to see. It's not when you go to the GitHub in Liferay, you will see a lot of variables. So to find this is a little hard compared to this way. Here we will only get the only you change it, the different of the default value. So here's the way we normally create. As you can see here, for example, here I have the style book version 2. And we have different styles. I am handle everything in some pages. So when you go to the page template, the variation sample 1 handle to me the header and the footer. If you would like to control the section, you can use the page template to control that. But normally, as we think in a real use case with the themes, we use it in the past, the footer, the header. We basically use the theme for that, and the global CSS. So for this, we have nowadays the fragments, which is much more easy to develop and to control, to maintain. So in this case, I just add here the fake, the logo type. And here we have one fragment out of the box, pretty nice, which is the drop zone. So as you can see here, I have the power to change the variation of my page with the master page. You can just add here whatever you want and mount your header and your footer. You publish. So in the moment of somebody goes to the page and go to create a new page, it starts off just have only the blank version, which is the default. We'll have all the variations created as options. So this person can use, okay, I will use the sample 1 and create this page. And there you go. Is inheriting everything coming from the master page. If tomorrow I go to the master page and I change the style book to be black instead of white, the header, to be to eliminate this menu and add a new one, will be inherited by all pages using this master page. So in this case, normally we use the container for the section ID. Here inside, and I don't know if most of you should know, but we have the grid, which is responsible. When you go to the mobile version, you have how to configure it here. If I want 1 layout, 3 layouts per rows, and the visualization. Also, if you have only 2, let's just change this, or 2, 3 modules, okay. When you have the grid, when you select the styles, you have only the space here. And in the advanced, you can add a custom CSS to that one. Okay. So here is the way we create the main part. You can add inside some widgets. It's the same way which we worked in the past as with the layouts. So I would say with the container and grid, you can have the layouts. So now let's go to the page variation 2. Here I just put some grids. As you can see, here's the number of grids. If I want to show the gutter or not, I would say yes. And when I go to the mobile version, I have the way here to inverse the order. Also, the grids is super nice. And if you look here, you will say, okay, so here in this use case, we are using the navigation menu here. And here I'm using the social media. Okay, so you can say, okay, this navigation menu are using now a widget display template. So how can I change the color? Because I'm not using here the fragments in any variable. So as I said in the past, as third option, we have now the third option to work together. We have now the client extensions. which can be global or theme CSS. The way to create is pretty easy. You only need, when you came here, okay, if you are in your, normally you need to be in the root of your Liferay workspace. And here, if you first of all, if you have the blade installed and it's very old, try to update that. Actually, try to update every week because the team is constantly uploading the changes. So my blades update. So if I create blade create, will
Rose,
provide to me.
can you make a little bigger the
Okay,
console?
sure.
I
Yeah,
think that
I
would
got
be
that.
easier.
Sorry, guys. Okay,
Thank you. Sorry.
no problem. Here's okay. No.
Yeah, that should be
Okay.
good.
Okay, great. So here with the when you just say blade create, will give to you an option of templates of projects that you can create with Liferay. And the second option is the client extension. So if you just put two, we'll ask you the name. So we can say my global CSS. So we'll ask to you which type of client extension you want. So normally I would say to you, you use the global CSS because the theme CSS, we need to take care of that because when we are using the theme, we are overriding everything, even the style books. So if I want to use the style books, it's better. The better option is to use the global CSS just to add new CSS. I don't want to change clay or the the CSS coming from Liferay. So I prefer to use the global CSS normally. So just give the name, my global CSS, and it's done. So to create a CSS extension, as you saw, is not a big, deal. Here I create in the past inside some folder to put everything together, and here I forgot to be in the same, so it's okay, no problem. As you can see, the global CSS works with a YAML configuration file, and inside you have the global CSS. Nothing, actually. So in my case, as I have here the global CSS, I put here to change the color for the navigations that is using in a widget display template. So when we came here, okay, page template. So if I came here in the site sample variation 2, as you can see here, I am using one display page template. So I just got that CSS, and I will say that I will transform this in white using the variable from the style book. So if you came here and this tool, we can change and add the CSS. So here you have the CSS extension, and I will add. Okay, I save. So I'll be back. Remember always we need to publish because this is a master page. It's very common we change things and go out. And when you come back and say, where is my change? And because you need to publish to public to do the publication for the other page. So here, as you can see, we have the white color and the cursive letters. When I publish, if I go to some page which is using the variation 2, here is white, and the global CSS is working well, as you can see. So that's it. It's very short explanation how you can replace your Liferay theme, your project with themes by master page templates, fragments, and style books. Putting everything together can work well. Okay. I just stop sharing screen.
Thank you, Rose. That's awesome. That changed from the other talks. A lot of objects, backend stuff, search things, but there's a front end to take care of with this new era of not using themes. So that's always great to learn about. And I shared something during your presentation when you showed how to get those tokens to be sure to use them when you're doing some custom CSS, but you want to rely on the tokens you define in stylebooks. There's this tool that Ivan built, which is the dialect stylebook generator, where you put some tokens and it does a variation, like lighten, brand, primary colors, all of that. So that can also help people, generating stylebooks without to go through other sections, as you mentioned, like you had the brand primary, but it doesn't affect the buttons, so you have to go to the buttons. So it can help on that.
Okay, yes, great. Pretty
Um,
easy, everything now.
yeah, and
As
for
you can
people
see now,
who,
now to teach somebody who starts with Liferay, it's much more
hmm,
easier. In the
yeah,
past,
for
we need
sure,
to teach how you can build your theme. You need to use free marker, yes or yes. And
yeah,
now inside the fragments, you can use free marker also, and we
hmm,
use, but don't need to build everything with free marker. Only if you want to use some rules and
yeah,
lists and this
definitely.
and
And when you're upgrading from standard templates and you want to move to fragments, but there's still some logic that doesn't really fit, or you don't have time to think about that. So you move fast, you keep the free marker, and it's working. So that's kind
exactly.
of nice and handy. But yeah, when you think about creating TPL file because you don't have content pages, you only have widget pages, and there's no flexible layouts.
That's
It can,
painful.
yeah,
Yeah.
that was painful.
And even nowadays, we have some customers using the Lifer 7.4, but
Mm.
people is coming from the old versions.
Yeah, like
They
6.2 to
use,
7.4.
yeah. I saw last week, uh, maybe this month, I
Mm.
saw one customer with the 7.4 and created 5 themes just to change colors or handle some some settings. For this reason, I had the idea, okay, seems to be so simple the way how we can replace by
Mm.
theme, but I'm think normally people uh, didn't change their mindset yet how could do that, because they will
Yeah.
say, how can I add uh, uh, a widget? How can I embed
Mm.
the widget? And we have some tags in Liferay to embed your widget
Mm.
in the template in the fragments. But they will say, how can I save the configurations? And for this reason, the master page is to handle all configurations.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. That's why we need documentations, we need talks and events like that to share the knowledge and give the new things happening. And one thing you mentioned for people who knew like content pages, which is important, sometimes you want to try this but you find out limitations, right, from content pages.
Exactly.
And one of them was like how I need some specific CSS for that instance of the fragment. And seeing that now we have the advanced tab and can put any CSS specifically for fragments, but only that fragment on that page. That's some useful things like we needed for some project to move on with the new things. So that's great to see.
Exactly. Well, let you know you like it.
Always. I have a question here, which is how about this SCSS in the CSS client extension? So I guess basically, do we support SAS?
Yes, we can. You just need to install in your package JSON everything you want. You can
Okay.
use a post CSS, a SAS. It's like the custom CSS now will be like a NPM project, and will
Okay.
you can build everything.
So I'm trying to extend the question on, is it interpreted during runtime, or when you create the fragments, it transpile to CSS
Yeah.
and then you use that.
When
That's
you create, will be transpiled and minified. Normally, we configure it that way. But if you are going, just share again my screen. If you are going to the theme CSS, which I don't recommend because we lost the style book. It's a mess. If you go, as you can see here, we have the dependencies, and it's out of the box created that way. And the global CSS nowadays is created very simple, but we have now talked this last week with the team who is building the client extension, and they will add the same way we are doing here with the theme CSS, the package JSON inside and the type to give more tip for people who is starting. But the theme CSS, for example, came with SAS, and what we have here is a dependencies for SAS, and you can by yourself add this package JSON here to be executed nowadays. And when we see here the build, it's the same thing we had in the past. We have clay and everything because we can do the same we did in the themes here. The only issue, you will lost the style box configured. So nowadays in the project we have been seeing and building, we didn't see any with stylebox. We don't see any reason why I need to override clay or why I need to override the other things, since we can use fragments and build your own layout and change the colors. But to use SAS here, you can use, actually we can use partial CSS and post CSS just to minify and get every CSS and put together. No need to be specifically a SAS, but we will be able to do everything here in the client station.
Okay. So I believe that's it. There's no other questions. And given the time, we need to move on to the next session. So if there are any other questions, that will be on the Slack community. I guess you'll be around while you logged in to answer any questions and get with people.
Okay, great. Thank you,
Thanks
guys.
a lot, Rose.
Bye.
And see you around.
See you.
We're a bit short on time, but I guess that the next presenter needs no introduction because he's been there for 2 days, and he's actually the reason we have this event. I mean, without Olaf, we wouldn't have Dev24. So we are always, at least I'm always eager to see a new presentation from Olaf because he's a great speaker and it's always an inspiration on the subject and the manner it's delivered. So without further ado, Olaf, stage is yours.
Louis, thank you. And as you can see, I have changed all of my setup. So I'll start just with a question back to you. Is there anything to change on the audio setup? Because my own ears can't hear me well when I'm speaking. It seems like it's okay. Or are you muted?
No, it's okay. Sorry,
It's okay.
I was muted.
Perfect. Great. It's sympathy for the DevOps. What is that? Well, finally something, finally for someone who is really familiar on the back end, that is not too front end heavy. Now, this is one of the areas where also a lot of things happened. I've started getting in contact with Liferay in 2008, in September to be exact. And I've installed back then version 5.1, if I'm not mistaken. And a lot has changed since then. This presentation is going to be addressed to the DevOps among you, to those who are either in contact with them, with those who install or maintain an installation, or who have to do it by themselves. And if you are that person, and if you have done so, I might tell you trivial knowledge. And that's my favorite kind of knowledge. Because there might be a spark in there that you like. There might be a spark in there, an idea that you would like to try out as well. We'll see. And I hope to get in contact with you later on. This has no PowerPoint at all, but I have a visualization. So what do you do when you operate, when you have some DevOps opportunities, or when you have to maintain your Liferay installation? Number one, today, when we start from the top, there might be a CDN in there, there might be a web server, there might be a load balancer and a web application firewall. I assume you can do that, and I won't cover that at all. Underneath, however, there typically is a Liferay server, and for today, we're going to pick Tomcat on there. So Tomcat it is, Liferay it is on Tomcat version. I don't care too much, but we'll go with one of the very recent ones. Now, underneath that server, we will also have, and now let me try to juggle this a little bit, we will also have a database, a file storage, and an Elasticsearch. And that is also something that I will only touch at, at the periphery. So let's first go with the installation here. What is your, what do you have to do in order to install one of those servers? Well, number one, you can install Tomcat, you can install the application on top of that, or you can install the bundle on bare metal. Well, great thing, that's what we've always done since 2008, right? Yeah, you're right, we did. But there is something better, or there might be something better. It's trivial to build your own Docker file, to build your own container and deploy that container within whatever environment you're in. And that is totally your choice. I'm not going to tell you to choose Docker, to choose Kubernetes, to choose this or that cloud provider. I am going to give you a glimpse behind the scenes, though, in Liferay's cloud offerings. But this is not a sales pitch. This is basically just telling you what you have to do. Now, when you install a container with the server, with Tomcat and Liferay, then everything is fine. You'll need to connect it to your database. Oh, please connect it to your external Elasticsearch, because that's the only way you can get a supported version, a supported configuration for production use. The embedded Elasticsearch will eat away your memory, is not tunable from within this system. You should not do that. So basically, install an external Elasticsearch, configure Liferay to go on there. Oh, and by the way, everything that I'm telling you is well documented on learnliferay.com. But I'm still telling it to you because I'm often seeing questions. It's like, why do I do this? How do I need to do this? And the problems come in when you say, I would like to have high availability, or I would like to have a system that can stand more load. Remember, we're not covering the load balancer, but we might have a cluster. Now, there's a situation that we have for the cluster. Let's say I am accessing machine number one. Make that an actual machine number one. And this is node 2. So if I'm accessing node 1, I will get the content that is currently stored in the database. And let's say that is my old profile picture here in black and white, because printers. Now, if I'm accessing this, the image or any kind of data will be stored in the cache of that server. If somebody accesses server number 2, the same image comes from the database and will be stored there. And for these purposes, I'll just put it down here so that you see this is the image that's in the database. Now, for a while now, I have been changing my profile picture to the one that has Fiete in there. And well, if I do that, and if I do that on server number 1, what happens? Here's what we constantly see on forums, on questions, on Slack, anywhere on Liferay Ask. So I will change the photo here. That photo or a copy of that will be stored in the database. And now somebody comes and accesses server number 2, and the old data is still there. Now, if you look at Liferay Learn, then you can see the full instructions of how to create a cluster, how to set up a cluster. And here's why you need to do that. Exactly that. This server changes something in the database, but that server has no clue that anything changed. Now, I'll save you from all of the steps because it's basically a checklist that you can go through from top to bottom. But what you need to configure is a component named cluster link. A cluster link will connect all of your servers with each other. Now, if we remove Docker from the image, if we remove networks from the image and those pesky switches that don't allow you anything, then we can use cluster link's default of multicast to find all of the servers in the network. But multicast is not your thing. So what you typically need to do is you need to tell server 1, 2, 3, where are the others? Configure unicast, especially in the Docker world or especially in the container world. And then these servers will know of each other. Let's simplify this a bit. Again, go back to 2 servers. And now that you have configured cluster link, server 1, upon updating any kind of content, will let everybody in the network know that a certain ID or a certain object with a certain ID has been updated. Now what happens? Caches get purged of that object. And here's basically the answer to one of the most frequent questions that I see every now and then. I have set up a cluster, 2 machines access the database, so they must show the same data. No, they don't. Here's the reason why. So if you really want to go through setting up a cluster, I'm not going to repeat this. In fact, I think I've said so in the agenda, but I'm not 100% sure if that made it. In 2010, I have presented at the European Symposium. That was my first symposium that I had with Liferay or at Liferay. And I've been on stage for 30 minutes and I've had time to create a cluster live on stage. That was fun. That was just going through the checklist. And I have to say I failed. I would have needed 32 minutes because I've made a mistake right in the beginning that set me back. Now, clustering basically still follows the same checklist, but it did not want to go through all of that at the screen. However, let's look back. We have a cluster, and if I now access my image or any kind of content on server 2, cache will be purged, it will be picked from the database, and all of the content will be there. Great. Clustering done. Do we need anything else? Yes, DevOps, do more. So number 1, this is something that I'm going to show you. This is how do you actually create all of these servers. Let's remove these and make it simple again and bring it up to 1 server. How do you create this 1 server in a repeated fashion? Well, I happen to like Liferay's workspace because that workspace really helps you build what you need. It helps you build your local environment, your production environment, or your containers. Liferay is offering Experience Cloud Self-Managed, or formerly known as DXP Cloud, actually does just that. You have a source control with a workspace. You commit your code there. The environment provides you with a build server, a continuous integration server, Jenkins. And if that succeeds, if your build succeeds, you'll have the option to deploy that build, a very repeatable build, on any kind of system that you like. Now, that's precisely why I like containers, because nobody gets tempted to just step in and change something live on the server, because it's so easy to just go in, log in, and change something and assume it's going to stay in there. I like that. Continuing with some offerings that I see often, or some questions that I see often, is one of my favorite puns. What else does the competent DevOps person know? I'll give you a hint, or I already gave you a hint, which is the backup. And if you are with Liferay, with Liferay's forums or Ask, that is it called Ask? Yes, it's Ask or the Slack channels for a while, then you will know that I do only allow you to call something a backup if you have recently demonstrated that you are able to restore what you call a backup. Because, to be honest, nobody is interested in having a backup. Everybody is interested in being able to restore what they have. And that change of mind is something that helped me a lot with knowing what should be on my backup, how often should I take my backup, and am I allowed to call it that? Or is it just a random collection of data from which I expect to be able to create a new system from scratch in case anything happens? Now, continuing before we look into the DXP Cloud machine room, what needs to be in your backup? That is your database, your files, that is your file storage, and your Elasticsearch. Will it? Should it? The answer is my favorite one as a consultant. It depends. What does it depend on? If your re-indexing doesn't cost you anything, like if it's an extra minute of startup time, then don't bother backing it up, just re-index on startup. We had some customers, like from the past, I do remember that we instructed someone to say, yeah, install this fix and then please run re-index. And they just looked at us as if we were crazy, because they said, no, that we don't have that day without a working index. If that is you, then back up your index. If it is cheap to re-index, you might as well not take it. For your files, if you look at the Liferay Learn documentation, they will use the database to store your files. Now, here's another tip for the competent DevOps team. Liferay has a database. I've covered that down here, or actually I've not covered that down here, and it has a file storage. The default file storage is called simple file storage, if I'm not mistaken. You should not use that in production. Just look at Portal Properties or Portal X properties, search for file storage, search for advanced file storage, and if anything, that is what you want if you need the file system, or use the database. Your files could or can be stored within the database. Now, let me keep an eye on Dave Nebinger, who is there on the couch, and I don't know if he's listening in, because he does not like that. And I love it, but it depends. Again, what does it depend on? Well, if you have large files and they are constantly retrieved from the database, you will keep a connection open for a long time. And that is not healthy for a database. That's not what a database is being built for. Sometimes it's just your DBAs who are looking at you like a crazy person if you consider their valuable relational database to store blobs. They don't like that for a reason. But others are like, meh, yeah, whatever. Go ahead and go there, put it there. Your choice. The documentation contains all of that and those. What you might take away is do not use the default file storage. And the backstory there is it's limited in the number of files that it can store, and the limit depends on the file system that you store it in. If you run on ZFS, on that thing that nobody runs, then yeah, you're good. That can handle it. If you run on any of the regular file systems, most likely it can't handle thousands or tens of thousands of files in a single directory. So you want to use at least the advanced file system store. But if you're running in any cloud environment, you want to use the cloud environments anywhere, and there's cloud stores that you can use. Remember to back them up. Now, for time reasons, I'm just mentioning what you also might want to pay attention to, and that's the disaster recovery. That's also something that shall be tested. So do you have a disaster recovery system? How do you actually use the disaster recovery system? How do you fail over? Is that manual? Is that automatic? Is that a hot, warm, or cold disaster recovery system? Try it out. Liferay Experience Cloud, the self-managed part, comes with a full disaster recovery if you want to. That can be in a completely different region, in a different data center. Well, data center anyway, but in a completely different region. If you want to. Failing over, I would say, is easy. From a past job that I had in a company dealing with business continuity, I do remember one aspect though, which is on the scale from easy to really hard. The failing over to the disaster recovery center is rather on the easy side. The failing back, or the original operation to move it back to the original data center, was significantly harder because it was not tested that often. Typically, people just flip the switch and then flip the switch back because the system was still running. The original system was still running and everything was good. Test ran well. Anyway, I don't cover that, but if you're running on Liferay's cloud, that can be included. Naturally, the higher your expectations are, there is a price tag to that, especially if you want to have a completely separate system. And then you got to decide how quick your failover is and how old your data is. Now, coming back to storing all of your documents actually in the database, I've mentioned that in the backup part, that you can store all of your blobs in the database. That makes backup trivial, relatively trivial, because you have just one database to back up, which is the reason why I like the aspect of at least considering it. Now, I have promised some look behind the scenes, and for that, let me see, one more aspect. Yes, I'm also going to cover something. This is a shout out to Louis Guillaume and Dev24 #1, where he has presented a solution or a proposal for a health check that I still love to see in the core or in the product. Something where the product itself, the portal itself, the platform itself checks, am I good? Am I running? Am I up? And last year or this year, I have created another way of health checking, which has really ugly UI, but it helped me tremendously just to notice there's a new system that I'm starting. Does it meet my expectation? And we're going to look at that as well. There's 10 minutes left. So let's get off of these illustrations and get back to the more regular screen share. But give me a few seconds. While we are here, please check if you have any questions. And I am changing #1. I'm changing the camera here to the regular one. That shall be this.
The camera is good and no questions so far.
That makes it relatively relaxed. So number one, I have prepared two systems here. Now I'll need some space. Good thing the dog is sleeping somewhere else. I have two systems here, double checking. Yes, sharing the screen. So number one, this is a test system that is running in the cloud. And I've told you I want to look back into the server administration. Number one, the server, no, not this server administration, but into the machine room of Liferay Cloud's console environment, which gives me the overview over what is running. We have a backup service, we have a database here, we have a Liferay here, of course, we'll have a search server here. Oh, by the way, all of these can be clustered as well, but that's out of focus for today. And we have a web server here, which will also serve as a load balancer if we want to. And we can see way more. We can see all of the logs, activities, and so on, the configuration. Now let me see, do I have the GitHub repository here? No, I don't have that prepared, but rest assured, there is a Liferay workspace in there which instructs with all of the content that we can deploy here. Among others, there are some plugins that I always deploy. For example, if you look at this, I'm working on many different systems, so I always want to have some clue what I'm actually currently looking at. So apparently this is update 52, relatively recent, which bit me because there was an incompatible change with one of my plugins, and that's the reason why I show you localhost as well. The backend. Here we have our services, we have our activities. I have recently checked in something, actually not 6 minutes ago, but 6 minutes when I loaded the page, and continuous integration failed. What are the builds that actually worked well? Not a lot. I only have 4 builds here, and if I look at this build, oh, actually this links at GitHub, so I can look at my repository. There is a commit which gives me a couple of changes. So my basic configuration, everything here is checked in. And if I recover from any disaster, then I can basically just go back and say, well, deploy this build, which is known to be good from production, deploy this build in any other environment. And I have here the production and the UAT environment in my self-service thing. And if I install this in the UAT environment and click deploy build, the deployment will run in the background. And after a while, when the system is started, I can access it. That's this part. One way or another, if you use this cloud environment, if you use your own scripted Kubernetes, it should match the features one way or another in this environment, in that environment, and it should be configurable in roughly the same way. If we look at this, we have one directory for each service where we can configure memory settings and so on. And that's basically it for the sake of just time. Sales pitch. I am in sales engineering, and I'm spending my day or my days demonstrating features like this, services like this, and as well product services that you might not know yet, even though you've been here. I'm going back to my localhost environment where I can show you 2 little plugins. So you can determine this must be my localhost environment, because as soon as I go to any control panel environment, I can see, number one, a different background color that tells me I'm on localhost or I'm on a different environment. And this is the service I have. This plugin is available on GitHub, by the way. I have two kinds of health check that I've talked about. Number one is the one that I use for demo installation. It goes through everything that I typically check for demo installations, and it does so automatically. It says, oh, please do not use default users with default credentials, which means I caught a test at liferay.com password test here, and it looks like this is lacking a full text index. So easy to fix. And I hope this link works. Sometimes they break in between. Yes, I can now re-index the search indexes, and then I will be able to see that user and actually delete it. That's a nice health check. And what I would really like to see in the product is hidden here in system health check. And I'll see, is there any product manager here in the audience? Anybody who would also like to see it? We'll just make it for all. If you're a product manager and would like to see it, or if you're just working with Liferay and you would like to see it wiggle something and move around, just like Wellington does currently. But don't run out. This is Health Check's ugly UI, and it basically checks anything that I could come up with in a demo environment. So it checks some properties, it checks if there is a full text index, it checks if memory is fine. So we'll need to have some max meta space being set. And apparently -1 is good, and this check is wrong, but that's it. Now, don't look at the UI because it says it's ugly, so it's correct. But that is one of the features that actually helped me setting up a system and being confident that it does what I constantly check. Now, if I go back, did I actually hit on index? I don't think so. So if I would go back here, sooner or later, the warning disappears. And I can be sure that, yeah, it's there, it didn't catch anything, and everything is according to my expectations. Now, this is one way to just optimize all of the DevOps way, not only on the cloud console, on this environment, on the back office, so to say, where you deploy something and you deploy it to the user acceptance test or you deploy it to the production. But it is also something that you can actually deploy on the front end. And if you're interested in my health check, I'll publish, or I have already published the GitHub repo, and I am preparing a blog article for a while now, but it's on its way. Or you can look at Louis Guillaume, who attacked the problem from a slightly different angle. Or you can even look at Commerce, which has its own health check, which gave me the idea that health check actually should be on the user interface. And here the user interface actually looks good. Now let's get back to look at the audience. And is there anybody here who would like to see such kind of automation? If so, wiggle a bit. And if not, why not? Now, as a DevOps, there is a lot of triviality. Everything that you do in the DevOps world is trivial all by itself. I have not covered hardening from the technical point of view, but I have covered a little bit some of these things, and the more you automate, you will know that. That's why it's called DevOps. The more you automate, the easier your life is. With the view behind the scenes for the cloud environment, with just some horror stories from this, I hope to have given you at least one or two tiny ideas how you can improve your own system. Where have you taken a shortcut? According to me, everybody has. And I say that from experience. Everybody I have met and every system that I have set up has taken one shortcut at a minimum. So with that, look at your own system, look at your own DevOps team, discuss with them how they can optimize, and give me that feedback so that I can bring it into the next blog article or presentation of this kind.
Thank you, Olaf. It was great. Thanks a lot. And I see that you moved your avatar a bit. You started not facing the audience, and I was like, should I interrupt him and say, you're facing us with the camera, but not the audience? That's not coherent.
I suddenly saw that the avatar was somewhere there, so now I'm actually in a more comfortable position on stage.
But you know,
Sorry
your
about that.
presentation reminded me of, was not the first time I've seen you give a presentation, but I was not at Liferay. I was working for a partner, and it was for a workshop for 7.0. So you were with Joaquin and Milan doing, you know, was OSGI is awesome. And,
yes.
you know, and you give them, you know, the talk about like backups, and not a backup is not a backup until you tried the backup. And it stuck with me. And here we are with DevOps, and it's still the same story.
I did not get to my horror story about backups, but it's quick to add. Do we still have the time?
We're 1 minute late.
Okay, then
then
find me somewhere, and there is an ancient horror story about default behavior and backups that magically don't grow in size. They're very efficient packing. That's being said.
That's good story for Halloween.
Yes.
Thanks again, Olaf, for your presentations. And guys, don't hesitate to put any questions on Slack again, so we can engage with you and get your feedback. And I guess you can also put the link to your health check, so we can get that and try this out. Thank you, Olaf. And I guess you can stay on stage.
When Jeff is talking, I will. You can find me outside if somebody is interested immediately in some stories. But I don't want to take too many people away from Jeff, because actually I want to listen to Jeff.
Yeah, welcome, Jeff. How are you?
The answer to the "How are you" is muted.
And maybe is it muted, or maybe it's some connection issues?
I can no longer hear you.
Oh,
we can hear you.
Okay.
Now we can hear and see you.
Okay.
Good.
We can communicate. Great. Welcome, Jeff.
All right, mission accomplished.
It's great to have you here.
It is, yeah. It's great to be here virtually, and thank you, both of you, for all that you do for the community and for putting this together. And thank you to the community for coming out and being a part of this.
Yeah, that's just a pleasure to do that and be here and share knowledge together. And some of the knowledge we need is about commerce. And during demos that I do days to days, like Olaf, when it comes to commerce, I can't help me but get excited about extensions. I always have to mention, I go to, a UI, and I'm like, you know what? That's an extension, so you can build your own thing and do more with commerce. So that's great that you're here today with us and can share some of that knowledge about commerce extensions. So without further ado, I'll let you the stage for you, Jeff. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Louis. Yeah, and I definitely, I think the way that the commerce team has built the product
The team itself had a lot of experience working with other commerce products. They had a lot of experience implementing other solutions before they started building, Liferay's solution. And we have a lot of expertise in that team. And so I think they've done a great job of anticipating where are people going to want to extend the product, and on a commerce implementation, there's always going to be something about the checkout process. There's always going to be validations. There's going to be a lot of areas that you're going to want to customize and modify. And so they've built commerce and architected commerce really with that in mind and having these extension points. And so it makes it easy to be able to handle complexity. I think that's one of the things that Liferay Commerce does really well is handling complexity. So I do want to give you a quick little background, and then we'll jump into the code. This is looking at how we actually do the extensions, but looking at kind of why we're interested in it. Like I said, that Liferay Commerce is important for a variety of reasons. One of those is that it's included for everybody. So if you're a CE user, you've obviously always had access to it. But if you're a DXP subscriber, starting in 7.4, it's now part of that subscription. And so that's a good reason to get on to 7.4 because you're going to have access to those features. And just like all of Liferay, we encourage you to use just what you need, how you need it. We provide a lot of tools and a lot of capabilities, and commerce is just another tool that's available in your toolkit that's going to allow you to solve problems and solve challenges. And so I think a lot of times people look at commerce and they think, well, I don't have a shopping cart. I'm not building a checkout experience, and so I don't need to use it. But there's really a lot of different times that you're going to want to use commerce capabilities and features. So if you deal with products, regardless of where they're sold, if you deal with orders, regardless of where that order happens, if you have customers, there are going to be features within commerce that you may want to leverage and you may want to take advantage of. And our commerce is really built with B2B and, by extension, complexity in mind. There are going to be things that there's just frankly no platform on the market it's going to be able to solve those challenges. And we have a lot of customers that we're working with that have basically said that to us. There's nobody out there that does exactly what we need because our sales cycle is so unique, our product is so unique. And with Liferay, with that heritage of allowing you to create extensions, we kind of, better than any other product out there, we get out of the way of those extensions and allow you to create the customer experience that you're trying to build. Now, the how is great for anybody who's been working with Liferay because it's the same as Liferay DXP. If you know how to extend Liferay DXP, you really know how to extend Liferay Commerce. Fundamentally, there's no difference. I think in the early days of working with commerce, oftentimes I would start working with people and they were very hesitant to touch the commerce components and they felt like, well, I don't really know how to manage that. And initially commerce was in its own repo. And so that kind of meant that it was going to get deployed as a module itself. And so it was a little bit harder in some ways to maybe extend. But now starting in 7.3 and beyond, it's really no different than any other part of the platform. And so if you know how to manage and create extensions for the rest of Liferay, then you already know how to do it for Liferay Commerce. Additionally, we're going to be having client extensions that are going to be doing this. So I'm going to be showing you kind of the older OSGI way, which is still really relevant if you are hosting Liferay yourself, if you're using our Liferay Experience Cloud self-managed. These are going to be very relevant, but we are going to be creating and are in the process of creating ways to do these exact same extensions, but in a more 7.4 friendly way or more of an LXC friendly way. And all of this is documented out there in the developer guide. So I'll have some links and I'll make this presentation available. There'll be some links there for you to be able to see this code up close. Now, when I talk to customers and when I talk to people about Liferay Experience or Liferay Commerce, one of the things I love to point out is that really in almost every case, if you're in the configuration part of the product and you see a drop down, that's usually a good indication that there is a commerce extension point behind the scenes that you can leverage. And so this is really just the beginning of what's there. As I mentioned earlier, it was really built with that kind of extension in mind. And so We could teach a 3-day course on all of these different extensions and probably still wouldn't hit everything. And so really for today, we don't have time to go through all of them. So I picked out some of the most common and maybe the most useful extension mechanisms. And so we're going to look at product renderers. I'm going to show you an example of a custom checkout step, and we'll talk a little bit about order rules. But again, the concepts are going to be the same, the way that we implement these. And you'll see that, again, there's really nothing that's that unique about it from a commerce perspective. We're still going to be creating OSGI modules and deploying those. We're still going to be using the same tooling. For the most part, I'll show you a little bit with an application display template, but most of this is going to be the types of extensions that you're already probably very familiar with if you've been working with Liferay for any length of time. Okay. So I want to start with a product renderer. Product renderers are how we display products in the platform. And so when I'm talking about a product renderer, got in here just in time, this is a product renderer right here. This is a product list renderer that we're looking at, these commerce search results. And if we were to click into one of these commerce products, I would see a product display page or a product details widget. You can see the name of it. This is another renderer. So we have kind of two flavors of renderer. One is for rendering a single product, and one is for rendering a collection of products. Now, the product detail widget is really the only one that you use the product, the single product renderer with. The product list renderer can be used by the product publisher widget, as we see here. It can also be used by the commerce search results widget. And if we are comparing products, it can also be used by the product comparison table or the product comparison widget as well. And so all of these widgets are compatible with different types of product renderers. And so we're going to be looking at both the product detail and the product lists. But they are, in the case of the product lists, if we're deploying an OSGI module, you can use that same renderer in multiple widgets. Now, you can use the OSGI module as I'm showing you here, or you can use an application display template. One thing to note with the application display template is that those are specific to a widget. So if you create an ADT for the commerce search results, you can't use that same ADT on the product publisher. You would have to actually kind of copy and paste that code. We have a feature request open to make those compatible, and hopefully we can make that happen. So that's one slight advantage that you get with the OSGI approach, is that a single OSGI module can work for a search results, a product publisher, or a product comparison. And I just want to make a note that you don't have to use this approach. We do have support for the information framework. Now, that's something that is in progress, a little asterisk there. It's behind a feature flag right now, and not everything is possible using the information framework. And when I talk about the information framework, what I'm talking about is content fragments, that modern site building capability where you can create fragments and you can map a fragment to a product. We have a couple of commerce specific fragments for image gallery and I think product availability. And some of the things that are still in progress are things like pricing. Obviously, displaying a price in a B2B context can be very challenging. It may depend on the type of order. It may depend on the customer and your contract pricing. It may depend on how many of the item you're buying. So some of those features are still in progress. And so, that's what that asterisk is all about when we talk about the information framework support. All right, so if we're going to take a look at our code, when we talk about our renderers, there are two different interfaces that we're going to be looking at. And again, like I said before, there's nothing new here. We're dealing with an OSGI component. In this case, we're going to be implementing an interface, the CP content renderer interface. It's a very simple interface. It's got three methods: get key, get label, and render. Of course, we can add additional methods in there for our own convenience, but those are the things that we have to support. And there are properties here. And this is where we can also decide a specific renderer may only work for certain types of products. And so Liferay Commerce supports a concept of product types. Out of the box, you have product types for simple types, a virtual product type, or a grouped product type. And of course, you can create your own product types as well. And so when we're talking about just kind of the bare bones, what do we need to get started? We need to be able to have our OSGI component declaration here. we need to implement the CP content renderer interface. And our render method needs to be able to hand off to a JSP. Now, oftentimes, you're going to have a lot more than this. Your render method is probably going to be gathering additional information. Maybe you're going to be creating some kind of a helper or a util or a display context that you want to pass to the front end. But this is really the minimum that we need to get started. And I kind of want to start there. And if we take a look at the render view JSP, again, very simple, bare bones, not putting anything in there, just a simple message to get started. So let's take a look at our portal, and we'll go back to a single product. And the way that we select the renderer that we're going to display is through configuration. Oh, that's the wrong widget. There we go, the product details widget configuration. And once you've deployed a custom renderer, you're going to see it in the list here. And I've got mine called Demo Product Renderer. Save that, and it'll require a quick refresh of the page. And there is our product renderer. So again, not very exciting, but we've got everything wired correctly. And now it's just a matter of putting the markup in there that's actually going to give us product information. Now, I don't want to spend all of my time here typing in and looking at my terrible markup. So I'm just going to copy and paste in here a real simple example here where, again, we're grabbing some utility classes, a helper class, in this case, the CP content helper. That's going to be useful for getting access to a CP content, or sorry, a CP catalog entry. It's also going to be useful for getting things like images. And so we're grabbing some of this stuff out of the request. Commerce context, I'm actually not using it in this small fragment that I have here, but that's a very, very useful feature. The commerce context is going to help me understand what channel I'm in, what account is looking at this particular product, also what order is active. So I can do a lot with that information. So a few pieces of information I need and a few extras, but let's go ahead and just save this and we'll redeploy. And we should be able to see our product detail hopefully gets slightly better. Just give it a second. Oh, and hopefully it was just that double include at the top there. Let's try that again. Okay. There we go. So now we've got our product name. We've got an image gallery. Again, I don't have much exciting images here, but we can see the image. And we can see the list price. In this case, we're just dealing with a simple price. But of course, there are tag libraries for many things, including the photo gallery that came from a tag library, the price, add to cart. And in the slides that I'm going to share with you, there's a link to where you can look at the out-of-the-box product renderer, and that'll give you some ideas of what's possible and what we can do. Now, if we take a look at the next one, the list renderer, very similar, just implementing the CP content list renderer, so a different interface. Here's where we can talk about, or here's where we can tell the platform which widgets should be allowed to use this renderer. So I want this to be available in my product publisher, in my commerce search results, as well as in the product comparison widget. If I created a renderer that really was not useful in something like the product comparison, then I wouldn't include that. I wouldn't want that to show up. Interface is very similar, get key, get label. We have a render method. And again, we have a similar overly simplified message here. If we wanted to take a look at that product renderer, we could look at it here within the context of commerce search results. And we'll take a look at that demo list renderer. And there's our, again, simple message to get started. What we're going to want to do, though, is we're going to want to include a little more information. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're still going to get that information from the requests, things like the content helper. We need to get this CP data source result. That's what's going to have all of our results in it. And then as long as we have results, we're just going to iterate through those catalog entries and display some information. Again, we'll just do an image and a product name, just to kind of give you a simple example. If for some reason we don't have any products, then we're just going to display a no products found message. So let's go ahead and deploy that, and we should see that come up. And there it is. So again, not very exciting, but you get the idea. And you can see product publisher is still using the old one, but I could, if I wanted to, I could also update this and use the demo list renderer again, because I told it that this renderer is eligible for the product publisher widget, as well as the commerce search results. Okay. So that's product renderers in a nutshell. I do have some resources here. You'll have access to these slides. I'll put them into the community Slack. But if you want to see how do we handle the out-of-the-box product detail, the product list, the renderer that I'm using, I've created a simple GitHub repo for this example. And then these are some other renderers that I've created for demos, just kind of pre-sales. None of this should be considered best practice when it comes to writing good quality code. These are our sales demos that kind of get things done quick and easy. I've also put in here a gist. This is an example of using a free marker template, using an ADT. So you can also see how that works. And if we wanted to, I could take a look real quickly at this, the way that we use an ADT. We use the application display template, and then we have access to a default, a basic, and then the product cards. The product cards is the one that I created. And again, a similar look and feel. This one's a little bit more fleshed out with price and add to cart functionality there as well. So again, that's just very high level overview of a product renderer, doing it two ways, using the OSGI modules, and then also using an application display template. Next, I want to talk a little bit about a custom checkout step. Custom checkout steps are really helpful when you want to customize that checkout flow. You can use them to add an entirely new step. You can use them to override a step or modify a step. You could also remove a step if you needed to, although the way that you'd remove it would be slightly different. Now, why would we want to do this? Well, typically we want to collect additional information, information that was not being collected through the normal checkout flow. Sometimes that's going to be information we store in a custom field. Sometimes that's going to be information maybe we retrieve. Maybe it's purely an informational screen that we want to display, and we want to fetch some information from a remote system and display it. Also, Liferay Commerce has a very, very rich data model, and we don't expose every single data field through the out-of-the-box UIs. And so one example is the requested delivery date. So I'm going to show you how we can add that to the checkout flow. Now, these are also typically used in conjunction with payments or shipment methods. So if you're creating a custom payment method, there is an extension point for the custom payment method or the payment engine, but you also have to display a custom checkout step typically to collect information for that payment step, or same thing for a shipment method. And so these are oftentimes bundled together with one of those other extension points. And let's go ahead and take a look. I'm going to close this one up. We'll go to the checkout step. Now, in this case, we do have a base checkout step. We do have a base class that we're going to be extending rather than just an interface that we're going to be implementing. So this is kind of a bare bones example. We have our demo checkout step extending that base commerce checkout step. Again, our OSGI declaration at the top. Here's where we can tell it the order of where we want the checkout step to appear. So in this case, it's going to appear in the middle of that flow. I think after we collect the shipping address and the shipping method, but before we get to the order summary. And so you can adjust that just by setting up the order as an integer there. We've got a process action and a render that we need to implement ourselves. The process action is going to be what happens after we finish the step, and the render is obviously what we're going to be seeing when we first display, or when we first get to that checkout step. So let me go ahead and deploy this as is. And I'll also show you while that's deploying, we'll take a look at the JSP. And again, there's not much going on in this particular case. Now, to get to the checkout flow, all you need to do is put something in the basket. Let me probably have my order rule turned on. So let me turn that off. Okay, so now we're in the checkout flow. And here we can see that our demo step has been added. It was added after the shipping method, but before the billing address. And of course, adjusting that number there would allow us to change that. And all it's going to do right now is display that JSP. That's really the only part of the screen that we have control of. The previous and continue buttons, those are being handled by the widget itself. But here's just an example of how we could display information. Obviously, displaying information is not that exciting. Let's go ahead and update that. Okay. And if we take a look now, now we have a more fully fleshed out example where we do have an as active method. Now, I'm not using it. I'm always returning true. But this is a method that we can optionally override from the base class if we want to do some logic before we decide whether we're going to display or not. Here's in the render method, I'm going to grab the commerce context. I'm going to find the order. I'm going to get the requested delivery date. This is data that's already on the data model, but we don't display. And then after the form is submitted, I'm going to grab that information and I'm going to display that info. I'm going to save that information on the order. And then we'd be able to see that information in the back end. We actually do have a place in the back end order processing where we have that available. So I'm going to go back to the beginning of this checkout flow, start it again. Okay, and now we have a very simple form. Again, the UI is not very exciting, but here I can go in and I can decide where or when. Maybe I want this delivered on New Year's Eve. Continue, and if I complete the rest of the process, that information is saved. It's within the order itself, and of course we can see that in the order using the out of the box UI. So in the admin side of things, it's exposed. It just wasn't exposed to the UI before. So that's a good example of how we might collect additional information during that checkout flow. And a couple of resources here. There is a section in learn.liferay about it. Out of the box checkout steps are available here. That's going to help you to figure out where do I put my checkout step. So I need to look up and decide which two steps do I want to put mine in between. You can take a look at the out of the box checkout steps and then figure out based on the value here, the commerce checkout step order. That'll help you decide where to put your checkout step. I have a link to the demo checkout step that I just showed you, as well as another one. Again, this is a sales example that I use in demos, not necessarily an example of best practices, but it is a little bit more complicated. It's using custom fields. It's using commerce line items. So there's another resource. Okay, and then lastly, I think I'm running low on time here, but we can get through this one pretty quickly, I hope. The last one is order rules. Now, this allows you to provide validation on the entire order. If you're a Liferay Commerce user and you've been using it for a while, you may be familiar with order validation. That was a feature that we had from the very beginning of Commerce, but that was operating more on a item level and a cart level. So as I'm adding items to the cart, the order validation would allow you to block that from even happening. Order rules are more at the order level when I'm about to start that checkout flow. And so if I'm using the order rules, I can evaluate the entire order and decide whether I'm going to allow you to proceed to checkout or not. It's enabled and it's configured through the UI. So you can decide when and where you're going to turn it on and turn it off, and you're going to be able to configure it. Another difference with the order validators, the older way of doing things, you didn't have any UI component. It was, once it was deployed, it was there. And it does support the eligibility controls. And so you can decide exactly when you want to apply this order rule. So the first thing to know is that you do have to turn this on, and you do that through the control panel, through system settings, through orders. And I think we're going to be making this available by default, but it's still kind of hidden under a feature flag. So under the order rules, you need to turn this on and make sure that it's enabled. Once it's enabled, then you'll be able to see order rules show up in your order management menu right here. Okay. Now, the code itself, if we take a look at order rules, again, common theme here that we see. We're going to have an interface, OSGI component. Again, we have orders here. This is just basically going to decide where in the drop-down list are we going to see the order rule. But we have a very simple interface, have an evaluate method, we have a get error message method, and we have a get key and a get label. So this is kind of the bare bones. This is going to always return false, which is not a very exciting rule. So instead, I think what I'll do is I'll jump ahead to the next step. And this one is going to evaluate a custom field. So we're going to take a look in the evaluate method. We're going to check the commerce account. We're going to grab the attribute, a custom field called on hold. And if the account is marked as being on hold is true, then we're going to return false here. It's kind of confusing. If they're on hold, then the evaluate is false, and I'm not going to let them go through the checkout flow. So if we go back now and take a look at the order rules, make sure that they are enabled. Let me make sure that I deploy this as well. And we'll go to order rules. And the way that we actually delete this, I'll add a new one just so we can see how this works. And I'm going to say evaluate the hold status. That's just the name of the rule. Liferay ships with one order rule out of the box, a minimum amount. Here, we're just going to do the demo order rule, submit that, and activate it and publish. Okay. Now, once that's been published, I should be able to go to the storefront. And if I try to go to the checkout flow, I should see an error message, and I'm not sure why the error message is not showing up here. Let me try a new order and just see if that has anything to do with it. So if I add an order, add an item to the cart and try to check out, and I should be getting an error message. I'm not sure why that's not happening. I promised you it worked when I tested. But the error message is going to be whatever I type in to the get error message method right here. So that's one way of managing the order rule. That's a very simple example. Apologize that it's not working, but we can see that this order is getting blocked because the account is on hold. And just to kind of show you that on the account itself, this is where my test account should be set up as being on hold. If I set that to be false, then I should be able to go through and complete the order. And fingers crossed, this will hopefully work. Yeah, now I can get to the checkout process. There is one other piece to it, and I will really quickly show you that piece. And there's another branch in that same repo where we're actually going to be using the UI component. And so what I've done in that case is I've added another class. So in addition to the demo core entry type, I actually add a JSP contributor. And the JSP contributor is going to link to a JSP. And what that's going to allow me to do, that's going to show me in the rule configuration. And I'm going back into commerce order management. I'm going back to the order rules. And now I've got a JSP that's been inserted into this larger widget where I can actually change the value that I'm looking at. So this is the name of the custom field that's being evaluated. So rather than using on hold, I could use something else. So I just created another one called Alpha for lack of a better name. And it should evaluate the same way. It should prevent me from going in, and it does. It just isn't, for some reason, isn't displaying that error message. So apologies for that. So real quickly, the resources that are out there, there is a learn.liferay article on it. We do have an out-of-the-box minimum account order rule, and this just links to where that is in Liferay's source. The link to this demo that I just showed you, as well as another example kind of showing some special rules around creating a shipping container order type. And so that's another resource that you can take a look at. I don't know that I have much time left for questions, Louis. I think I'm up against the time limit.
Yeah, but we don't have much questions
Okay.
in the community Slack, but I have one about the custom checkout step you showed. And you mentioned that the previous and continue buttons are controlled by commerce, right?
Yeah.
So my question would be like, would it make sense? And I feel like, sometimes you want to build a custom checkout where there are some requirements you want the customer to fill in before continuing, and you want at some point not able him or her or anyone to click on continue until they fill up some extra information you put in the custom checkout. So is there any plan to add more, I would say, control about those buttons depending on what you're building?
So there is, I didn't show all of the methods that are in that base checkout step class. There is a method for showing the controls. So you could actually put some logic into there if certain conditions haven't been satisfied yet. Don't show the controls. So that might be one way to handle that today. I will say in general, we are trying to use some of the new capabilities around state management to also make it easier to manage the checkout process without having to use OSGI modules at all. So I think that's where we're really putting a lot of our focus on is to, continuing to support what we have today. But in terms of innovation, we're really looking at how can we do that in a way that's more SaaS friendly, that's using client extensions or configuration through things like state management. So that's where we would see more capabilities in the future.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you, Jeff. Olaf, do you want to add anything or?
No, it was just what I've commented in community Slack. So in order to demystify the extensions, get the fire hose, let Jeff aim, and then get out of the way.
Are you trying to say I talk too fast, Olaf?
No, that was just a lot of information, and I definitely need to see the video again. And definitely not in 1.5 times the speed. No, I really value a lot of information. There's the two kinds of presentations that I value. The ones that are like just a treasure trove of individual things, like the fire hose of information. And there's the ones which spark some idea. So this one was full of facts and actionable stuff to try. I like that. And I like both. It's both aspects.
Yeah, and I love that, there's a lot of resources to check out on your GitHub. And so it's like I went to the restaurant, I'm full, but I have takeouts for home. So I can dig into that, and that's just wonderful.
Yep.
Great. Well, thank you. And thanks for putting this on. I will stick around. I'm going to watch Wes's session, but if anybody has any questions, they can find me.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks a lot, Jeff.
Yep. Thank you.
Thanks again for being here. Bye.
I've shared a couple of those nuts that I recently learned where I can get them from Pettery. Now I have nut crumbs everywhere.
Hi, Wes.
Hello, Wes.
I wanted to say that I really enjoy hearing Jeff talk. He always brings great information and a lot of resources too, so very informative. Yep. So we're getting close to 24 hours of content. Is that true?
Yeah.
It's not quite the content for 24 hours, but it's 24 hours of program, and we had a couple of breaks in order to just use this platform, which hopefully we'll do more tomorrow, and just use it more for individual contacts, networking, and so on.
How long does the unconference go for tomorrow? But
another 5 hours of program. Or 5 hours of agenda, plus building, and a closing round.
So we'll say Dev 30 or so, or so.
Yeah.
But great, and great to be able to take some time and be on the stage where the magic happens. So, thank you.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Welcome, Jeff. Sorry, go ahead, Louis.
No, I guess that Olaf, you're very excited to learn more about front-end and JavaScript stuff, right?
Front-end is great.
Yeah, we've seen that with your health check ugly UI.
Yeah, well, but no, it's great. I know what people can do there. I just know that I am not the one to make things look beautiful in a limited amount of time. So I can do something there. I can do front end. You do not want to wait for the time that it takes me to go onto the front end.
Well, maybe watching more videos from people like Rose, maybe we'll absorb that, I hope.
Yeah, by osmosis.
And also from you, because you're about to give us a talk about building a React-based multilingual, multi-page loan request app with objects as data source. So that's a lot of stuff in a title and in an app. So I think, I hope that the audience is as excited as I am. I know about the app, obviously, because we work together, and I was happy that you had to share this with all of us. But I'm eager to see you again present it and deep dive in that.
Thank you, Louis, and of course Olaf for getting this all together. I'll share my screen and we can go through it. But before I do, Louis, can I borrow 50 euros?
Oh, yeah.
But maybe pay it off over the course of 30 years. That's a loan, right? So my talk is going to be about how I put together this loan app here. And if that was the case, and I took 30 years to pay you back that 50 euros, that would be quite a few payments, many payments to pay you back. You'd probably end up with about 150 euros at the end.
Okay, that's a deal.
Maybe not a bad thing, right? Okay, so this is something that, of course, you were involved in. Thank you for helping with some of the translation stuff too. But I found that so much has happened in the last year with Liferay, the technologies, and the ability for us to build great things. that it's the possibilities really opened up. A year ago, I didn't play much with these technologies such as React. I know it's very popular in that you look to your left, you look to your right. Probably one of those people knows a bit of React because of the popularity in the market today. And it's important that we adapt and are able to allow these technologies to work inside of Liferay efficiently and quickly, and then make use of the talent that's out there. People are just have fantastic talent to build great things in these UI languages, these front-end framework tools. So I started playing around, and the result was kind of fun. So I want to share it with the group and the community, of course. So here, when you think of making a React app, and then you have your historical Liferay knowledge that you're bringing to the table, sometimes you think that they're pretty disconnected, almost like an iframe. This thing doesn't really relate to that thing, and they don't talk very well. That's changed quite a bit in the last couple months. The ability for us to track data, build extensions to the schema, share important things like the theme display object with the React app. That's kind of possible on how this has been put together by the very talented product team. So a lot of good things here. So here, now I could make this a very expensive loan, many, many euros too, but for our story, we'll have 50 euros and a 30-year with this interest rate. I can also go to 15, and that interest rate changes in that case. So go into 30, I'll continue through this. Notice that this is a multi-step process, that on the same page, in Liferay, I'm able to continue from point A to point B to point C as I go through this app, and I can fill in my information here. And submit that. And that's nice. It's in the system. And because of how the objects framework works, this could work with workflow and permissions. People could be notified. They might have other responsibilities. They could have webhooks and lots of things to make this happen and make it useful in a business context, of course. But there's more. I might be coming in, and I might speak a bit of French, Portuguese, or Spanish and want to see the result. And that could be based on me as a signed-in user. You helped out in providing a French translation, Louis, so merci. Thank you for your support in helping in extending this app and making it accurately translated. Very helpful. But there's more in that I'm not signed in at this point, and I noticed that I have two rates, a 15-year and a 30-year. When I sign in here, I can put my information in. Oops. Because of permissions, for the records that could be stored in any object, I, at this point, as a signed-in user, have access, let me refresh that, I have access to a 5-year loan, which might have a different interest rate in that case. But this is because these records could be permissioned. So there's a lot of great things. And this is leveraging the headless API that is built automatically every time you create an object using Liferay objects. All of those things were very much, other than the React app itself, no code needed to be written at all. So I can go into this page I've put aside here, this loan request configuration, and I can see here that I've got my rates. I'll extend this just a little bit here. The 5-year, the 15-year, and 30 with those. And we'll see that for the, let's say, 30-year loan, and I go into permissions, that has view access for guest. So I, as a user, would see that when I'm at the page and I haven't authenticated into the system. And if I go to the 5-year, that doesn't have guest permissions. And just like that, I'm able to make functional changes to my app and what I'm offering to a user through this, tried and true roles and permissioning that comes along with Liferay. It's always been available, which is, of course, very powerful. So I'm going to leave that alone. And then when these results are put into place, I see these results coming into the system here, just like this. Okay, so because we're in Dev24 and we like to look at code, let's figure out how this is done and how we can benefit from things like the user's language settings or other aspects like that through a React app. So first, let me talk about how this was built. This is available at this location, West Kempa Liferay React Loan Calculator. And there's some good detail and tutorial there to help you along your way in building this yourself. What those objects look like and how to construct it with the commands to build it. Building it is, once you've downloaded it, pretty simple in that you take the files that come from this repo and you do a npm run build or yarn build to build out that app. That takes a little bit of time and you get your result, this resulting build folder of files. Now, there's more ways now that we can include React apps and other front-end technologies into Liferay. And I think it was covered maybe earlier in the discussions through the two-day event of Dev24 is that you can have this now as an extension and you can deploy an extension to your environment and that will automatically register into your environment. And that helps us in making sure that no code needs to be changed in our environments, our cloud environments, or any way that you're hosting Liferay, which is great. So there it's completed and I've got my build files. If you don't want to take the extension route, there's still some great ways to include the resources from this app. I have a main and a CSS file here that would be needed for making sure this renders properly. You could put it in your Tomcat instance as a kind of a new web app inside of the Tomcat web apps folder, or you could upload it into your document library. There's a lot of good ways to do this, and it's very open in how you would then apply that to your working environment. So I could go in here and show inside my remote apps. And I don't know much French here. I should probably change it. Or this is Portuguese. I should probably change it back for my own sanity. I know where things are in the administration just out of habit, but wouldn't be able to read it. So here, this is the React loan request form, and my HTML element is loan calculator. Very important to note. When we go into the code, I'll explain why that needs to be there. But that's what this React app attaches to, right in the DOM of the working page. Also, and it's important to make note that we need a couple objects to store the data in. So we have rates and loan requests here. These were registered inside of objects, and I think you've seen a lot of that over the last couple of days. Very powerful to be able to extend Liferay schema in this way. For rate, it's very simple in that we have rate and term. The term in which that rate needs to take, like the 15 or 30-year term, and the rate is the percentage of the the interest over time. Then it's also important that we store those requests when people submit the data and that gets entered into the system. We need a loan request object to then store that. And that has a few more fields. The amount of the loan, the $50 that I had requested from you, Louis, the rate in which I would need to pay that back at, the term in which I selected, and first name, last name, email address. At this point, there's no relationships. You could have related these two things between themselves. And there's also the option of having actions or workflow related stuff that needs to happen when these things are created. But that wasn't particularly the focus of my demo, so I haven't created any for this case. So those are the two things that were created for this use. And it wouldn't be surprising to you that if I click into here, I see the same thing. I see the 5, 15, and 30 year. And if I add another one, let's see if I come in here and add a 5.5 for a 20 year, something like that. Oh, that's 30. I'll have to change that. Otherwise, it'll look the same as the other one. Yeah. Let's go 6.25, just to make it a little bit different. And 20. But objects also allow you those components, those widgets that you can put on provisioned pages to make sure that user doesn't have to necessarily go into the control panel to see that. But I just wanted to show the behind the scenes. I'll go back to my Liferay instance that is, this is 52. I started this up earlier today, so I think everyone would have access to that version now, 52. And checking on my calculator here, I've got the 20 year. There's an ordering issue, but not too bad. And I can then use that interest rate to calculate the term and payments on my loan over time. And let's, I'll just put something in there. Start again. Just make sure I got my entry came in just then. So just like that, I made a pretty functional system from some very common front-end technologies, in this case React. But let's look at the code and go into a little bit more detail and find out more about how it's built and how it can make those authenticated calls using Liferay's auth token. And that also helps us in that you know who's who and who has the right permissions to see the different rates in those drop downs. So I have this code here that is what is available in that GitHub repository. And just a quick reminder here, that's available at this location if anybody needs it. And I'm going to open up Visual Studio Code to give us a good look into the code. All right. So here, that's the source folder that I was working with, and that I have an index.js file here that's kind of the heart of my React app. And to your point, Olaf, you're kind of worried about making it look good. No, I didn't have to build all of these components. I used a library, which can be helpful in making sure you have a consistent look throughout all of your UI elements. This is Material UI, and that just gets plugged into my React app, and then I can use it to make sure all of my components look very consistent in that way. Also, I've included an internationalization provider. This is the tool that I'm using to help in taking the user's chosen language and applying that and updating the React app to show that language. So here's my language files, and I have ones English, Spanish, French, and Portuguese here, and I define that. And those are available inside my translations folder. So for the English one, I'll open that up, and I know your help was here, making sure that I had a great translation for French, so thank you. Back to that index file. And here's kind of the magic. Now imagine you're getting this JavaScript file and you're applying it to the page, right? And when you're running your JavaScript component inside the Liferay page, you have access to all of Liferay's JavaScript utilities, which can be a lot of important things to make sure that you know about the user session, what they can access to from an authentication standpoint, or other aspects, such as what is the current language ID on that theme display. I can get that here because when I compile my React app, and React makes sure that you're compiling very strongly typed code, it wouldn't like this, but because it doesn't know the Liferay object. So it would fail when you compile your React app. That's why this disable next line here, this comment is here to approve that we can compile and pass the checks on that next line, supplying a language ID. And then this language ID then gets used when setting up our localization, when we set up the file. So here's the root of my React app shown here, and that this internationalization provider wraps the theme provider and the app itself, kind of encapsulating it. So whatever updates these get, it immediately updates that app object. And here's what I had mentioned earlier, is that we need to attach our React element to the element inside of Liferay. So this is the root element that I would expect. My web element that I'm attaching that to needs to be loan-calculator, and it's important that you need a hyphen there to make sure that works properly. Some element with a hyphen. Now, when you're building React apps, you get this public folder. And I still have a public folder, and I took the time to come in here and give myself an HTML element with that same name, loan calculator. And that might help for local testing, but this doesn't get used when you actually are running this inside of Liferay. But for local testing, sometimes this can be useful to have it to attach to. So then there's multiple pages in this app when you click the next button and back and forth. So that is seen in this app, kind of this main application object here. And this is the steps. So we've got the loan detail page, page 1, user info, which is page 2, and the thank you, which is page 3. And those are in a switch statement with case. So the React app's keeping track of where the user is and back and forth through that process, right while it's embedded in a single Liferay page. Now this helps avoid any maybe conflicts with Liferay's page pattern, the friendly URL. If you're changing the URL, that would disrupt the React app's behavior. You'd be switching to another page or a 404. So this kind of separated it from the way Liferay wants to manage navigation throughout. And these buttons have simple actions that they say handle next, handle back at certain times, and we can disable them in that there's certain things that the user might need to do to continue on to those next pages. But posting back and forth to the server needs to happen too. And as mentioned, it needs to be an authenticated user, and there needs to be an auth token to make sure you know who's who. That's being handled all through here, in that I've made a method, Liferay API, and I'll go into the detail in this because this doesn't show all of it. But you will see that there's a body, the content of which I'm submitting to the headless API, and that we're submitting it with the method of post. And we're doing it to this path, OC loan request in that case. And this is kind of the heart of us interacting with the server and sending that data there. Now, we're also getting data too we need to get the rates back so that we can display those rates. So there's 2 calls in this app that work together to make sure the app works properly. Now, the outer container, there's not much there in the app. A lot of it is handled in that stepper, in the step content. So it then renders these pages seen on the left. Loan details, the user info being page 2, and the thank you page. And these use the Material UI component to help with things like grids, that you've got columns, and the buttons. Now, here you'll see right here is the internationalization, and I'm highlighting it here. These are language keys. Much like language keys you'd use in managing messages inside of Liferay, you would have message keys here so that we can tie it to those language files. Kind of an example of how it might be done. I think it works pretty well, and I would definitely reuse this approach. It was very convenient. And then that over time that we're printing out the math. Surprised how condensed that is, the actual logic for printing out that value over time. But there's some people that are smarter than me that have already proven out how that logic works and how you calculate that interest over time. And that's in amortization file here to go through that calculation and push it into a data grid. It's kind of nice. It's nice for a visual and nice for information, but very flexible in how you would deliver that. So getting to the heart of that call, because we showed how we can pick up the theme display object and then pull the language ID off of it and use that for the display. This API component, which is inside as a common service that I've created that could be used for both the rate call and the submission of the loan request call. I find this very helpful because it does a number of things for me. You'll see a very similar line here, and I don't know if this is, I'll make it a little bit bigger so we can read it. This one's pretty important. So getting the Liferay auth token, and I've got a method for that to get the Liferay auth token. And then in the case of using that, we store it inside of the CSRF token header property to provide information about you and your session to the server when we submit it. Now, because I did a lot of local development and I wanted to make sure that I'm able to do it even externally to Liferay, not when it's embedded. And so I'm actually editing my React app and it's updating on another port, and then I can still make the connection. I made a safety check here. If I don't find an auth token, I pass in basic auth. And right now I just use the common test at Liferay with a password of test to get in. But this is my fallback if I'm working on a local or a React server, and I'm working with this to make sure it works properly before I go through the process of making it an extension or making it a remote app. So some important things there in this API.js file. So some good information, and I do hope that the repo that I shared is useful to you. In that you can go here and get access to this React app, make it your own and play with it. Because where do we go from here? So I shared this probably a number of months ago, and other team members have picked it up and made their own. So Jose Maria, a friend of mine from another Liferay team here, has taken this and made their own app. And it's a little bit more advanced as far as they had levels of insurance involved and the type of business involved, and that might relate to the numbers provided based on the type of business, they might be higher risk or not qualify for certain types of loans. Little check boxes here, fire extinguishers and water supply on the location, that might reduce the risk further. So this same model could be used for much different outcomes than what I am doing in my loan request app. And here you'll see that that information about the policy and the coverage of the policy for this insurance that you'd be setting up can be calculated in this way with the quantity. So consider it kind of a baseline or a start to maybe learn some tricks on how you might make use of this in your work. And as always, and with the community and everything we do at Liferay, let's keep building great things into the next year. So,
Thank you.
Louis, am I on time? Pretty good.
Yeah, you're on time. You're even a bit early, but that's great because we've seen everything that's needed to be shown. Just for the record, I think you might need to update the repo because that wasn't French translation that you've shown.
It wasn't.
No,
Could
it
you,
wasn't.
since we have a little bit of time for questions and things.
Yeah, we see the add French translations, but that was not the value we've seen in your deployment. So
no, okay.
and
Well, I'll
it wasn't
double
the
check to
value
see.
in the repo.
But on screen here, is this what I would expect?
This is not what you have locally in the common JSON. If you compare,
Oh, okay. I must
between-
have an old version. Yeah.
yeah,
Locally.
and
It could
maybe
be the
on.
case.
So, did you update the Netlify? So that's one good thing. I'm not sure you clearly mentioned that, but in the README you have deploy to Netlify button, and Netlify is just a great way to deploy any of those front-end applications for free with good free usage for testing. So that's a good thing. But when
It
you're
was your recommendation, so I was happy to take it.
Yeah, I explored that. And actually, I have some templates talking about that. I have some templates on GitHub in repos. I could share that on Slack also. Because one thing that could have happened is you update it and deploy to Netlify, but it created a new hash for the name of the file. So that's something you would need to update on the remote app. And that's kind of annoying when we doing a lot of development and deployments. And with Netlify, it could deploy new things when you push them to the repo. So you might want only for development, um, a file without the hash in it. So when it changes, it's the same name. And also maybe a single file because, the best practice is to have chunks for performances. But when you're developing, you just want, to declare a remote app, single URL, no hashes, and, works every time.
Okay, I'll check on that, and that could be the case.
Yeah, we could, work on that and see what we could do. Also, to mention that you talked about the Liferay JS objects, and I didn't know that you could indicate in the comments, don't panic. I know the object is not here. It will be there in the runtime. So, yeah, that's good to know. I used to use the window objects because Liferay
Window.
objects is
Okay, so
you
window
can-
would exist. Okay, that's good.
Yeah, window always exists, and it knows that it's an object from, the web environment in the runtime, so it doesn't panic on window. And window, it's kind of an array where you have all the objects. So you can have window, bracket, quotes, Liferay.
Oh, in quotes though.
In quotes, yeah, Liferay. And what I'm used to do is I used to do that, and then checks, do I have an object when calling window, brackets quote Liferay. And if I don't have that object, I could do another logic where I would mock up, because I'm not embedded in Liferay, so it doesn't exist. I'm trying that out, using React Start. So I could use that to run something else, and that could be, for example, the basic auth. Because I believe that if you don't have the auth token, it might mean that you don't have the Liferay object or things like that.
That's kind of the goal. If it's returned blank or fails, I want to provide another option. How do I authenticate in this? And that's only for local development. It wouldn't be used for anything else, because you probably wouldn't want anything like this in maybe in production environment.
Yeah, for sure. And that's very handy. And I think you could also wrap it up with what is called, you have like, are you the environment? You can check the environment. Are you in development or production? And it could, I think, actually remove the snippet when you're building for production and in the embedded mode. But that's a handy way to try this out in Liferay, outside of Liferay. And shout out to you for building that application. And I remember when objects came out, you were the one to also share the dashboard data objects. I don't remember the name exactly. It was really the early proof of concept on how you can, build the remote app, do some real-time data that comes from objects. So that's just awesome.
Well, all the ways that we could use it. I remember last Dev24, and I thought we were breaking new ground then, but there's so much more this year. We built a Kanban with the tasks, and that was a fun talk from last year. But ever since, we've been building all sorts of things with it. Graphs inside of fragments that update when you update the data, which is the one you're talking about, and all sorts of user-facing applications, saving us a bunch of time running the service builder and doing deployments. So time saved.
Yeah, time saved, definitely. And it's nice to have that, development workflow outside of Liferay, where you're making changes, deploying your own React. Doesn't have to restart Liferay. And that's just great, right?
True, because startup and deployment does take time. We all know it.
Yeah.
Well, great. I thank you for giving me some time to chat. It's an honor to be one of the last speakers of the day. I know there were so many good speakers before me, but great to take the stage and great to see everybody here at Dev24.
But you're one of them, so thank you for being here, sharing knowledge, and it's always a pleasure to talk with you. So we are glad you're here.
Thank you, Louis. And thank you, Olaf.
I'm seconding that. Thank you, Wes. If you want to stay here for a bit, because you were, well, yes, you were one of the last speakers of the day, but if you stay here, you have the chance to be the last speaker of the day if you actually then say something at the end. By the way, you're still sharing your screen, just to let you know. Yeah, we are done with Dev24 day number 2. And the big reminder is there tomorrow we'll have the Unconference. I'm still, well, I have just started preparing an email reminder to everyone who registered. There will be a full house tomorrow if everybody comes, and we're prepared for that. So the Unconference is basically an event where everybody brings their own topics, suggests their own topics, hosts a discussion round with anybody else who is interested in that topic. It sounds counterintuitive, but it really, really, really works. Mariella this morning has announced that the next DEF CON in Q2 2023 will have an unconference that is most likely a single day. I don't know if it's the first day or the last day, but in the past, it has been reported, or it has had feedback as the most productive day of all of the DEF CON days, which is nothing good or bad to say about one or the other, but it's a different kind of productivity that you get from frontal presentations versus it's actually circular arrangements of group discussions. So there is no frontal talk, there's only talk between equals. And tomorrow, for the beginning, we will meet in Singapore, which is the theater west from here. So the Budapest theater will be vacant and the Singapore theater will be active, and there won't be any streaming. So you got to be there or you're going to miss it. Louis, Wes, thank you so much. I have two people here from the team who have actually organized Def24, who have been around before, and it cannot be said often enough that Def24 is a labor of love, so to say. I'm really grateful that we found a team of volunteers, of people who have invested their time, their love, their heart, their sweat into organizing it, into making this happen. It was a stupid idea. It was a selfish, stupid idea. I just admit that. And I'm saying it in front of everyone. The first idea for Def24 was, we don't have DEF CON, but they asked me to present everything that we have new in the feature. That was in 2020. So for obvious reasons, we didn't have a DEF CON. The reason that shall not be named. When that became apparent that we don't have a DEF CON, but we have a new release, figured, well, no, this is not possible. We'll need something that's got to be online necessarily. And the company with it, Brian Chan, was crazy enough to say, yeah, well, go ahead, invest some time, invest some money, like build the platform and get the knowledge that you need. Because if I had asked everybody individually, hey, can we sit together for half an hour and could you please explain to me what you did? They would have said, let me briefly think about that. No. But with a couple of hundred people watching it at the same time and getting all of the recording, suddenly that thought scales. And with Work Adventure, that is from last year on and this year, I would say it's even fun. So for me, actually, I was really hoping to see the next DEF CON on Work Adventure. And as I said to Mariella earlier today when she presented DEF CON, the only correct reason to say that no, the next DEF CON will not be on Work Adventure is that, well, we will meet for DEF CON in person. That's the only acceptable reason to not do it on DEF CON, right? So I'll put something in there. Q2, remember, you can see DEF CON then and there. For now, Louis, Wes, do you have anything to say before I'm going to thank the team?
Well, I want to thank you because you're saying it's selfish. I don't see it that way, because you invest a lot of the energy in an event to share a lot with a lot of people involved. So if it's anything, it's not selfish, I would say. And I'm not sure it would happen without you sharing your energy and your leadership into, keep connections that way with the community. And I'm happy to see that Dev24 found a place where DEF CON is coming back. we find a way to complete that, and that's just awesome to be part of that. And yeah, shout out to everyone involved. Don't need to tell all the name. You know, you you participated in that. Speaker, organizer, thanks a lot for making that possible.
Takes a lot to make this happen, and your love for the community, I dare say that's one of your favorite things about what you do, giving back and making sure that people are successful. It says a lot. So great work to everybody involved.
Yes, I'll say after each event, and this is not even after the event, tomorrow is another day, but after each of these events so far that I've had in the past 12 years, or that I've joined in the past 12 years, I can say always my takeaway was that I was quite amazed to be able to call this work. Because in the end, this is self-chosen. And I really say, no, I'm stressing it. It is selfish. I need, like personally, I need that information. And what is better than having everybody spoon-feed it to me in a way that I can go back to the recording? So yes, no, I'm not hiding behind anything. I call that selfish. And I totally accept the side effect that it's, number one, fun, that it's for everybody, that it's for you, because that's what gives me the value. Otherwise, people would just say, no, we're not talking to you. Well, with that, Anne, the co-host from DEF CON, so you have seen her on camera. She's on vacation, so shout out to her. And she has helped prepare everything. So yes, definitely shout out to her. We have Alvaro, who has been busy with quite a lot of stuff. Louis Guillaume, Wes, well, you two are here. Rose, I recently saw her. There she is. So she was recently here. She helped preparing. Luca and Mahmoud, they've built the ticketing system, and Mahmoud did so multiple times because he wasn't happy with, I don't know, there was some pixel that got out of sync with something. So he really cared of the appearance of your ticket, of that one. So that remote thing. Jamie helped us with lots of stuff, and there were many more people. It's always the risk if you start going name by name that you're missing someone. And I can only say thank you for everyone. Now, the last thing that I would like to close with is actually to play that DEF CON video, and I'll need to find that. Now, this is something that I did not prepare. Hold on. Oh, and I see Christoph, shout out back. So he's saying thank you for organizing it. He learned a lot, just like I. Now we can compare who learned more. But I won't dare doing so. Now, where do I find the video? There it is. Should be here. Yes. So I hope to see you all tomorrow, morning, noon, afternoon, or night, whatever, whenever it is for you. And I definitely hope to see as many of you as possible at DEF CON whenever it happens. It shall be Q2 2003, and it's somewhere in Europe where the sun shines. I would say, well, I'm in Hamburg and the sun shines here more and more. Why not? But there's other places where the sun shines as well, somewhere in Europe. I hope to see you tomorrow at the Unconference. Be there on time, because an Unconference really has the magic moment in the moment when the agenda is being built. With that, good night, good evening, good night, good morning to wherever you are. Here's the DEF CON promo video.
Olaf, you're here.
Nice to see you.
Yeah, in person.
Welcome in Germany. Welcome to DEF CON.
Thank you so much. Hey,
Oh, and look at that.
There's more people with us.
Hello, audience.
This is DevCon, and this is the time of the year to get to know everything that is happening in Liferay technology. You're going to have 2 full days of content and networking and fun games also.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Liferay DevCon 2022. I'm so excited to be here with you, and I hope to share many of the things that we've been working on.
Hello.
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 Hello, Amy.
Go ahead and gather your questions and we'll deal with them after.
Ready, set, go.
The winner team will have the other with blue hair by the end of the event.
We're looking forward to our next touch point 2023.
See you around.